It's all happening.
There we are. We're in the game. I'm not going to worry about it today, Dan.
Very good. Where are you? There you are.
Welcome.
Welcome indeed. Hey everyone, hope you're doing awesome. Thank you for joining us on this. I must say, it was the most pleasant day we've had here in a long time.
Weather-wise?
Yeah.
Same.
It was still brisk, but the sun was out.
Yeah.
Which just makes everything better.
And it's not -3 anymore.
Yeah.
It must have been a good 10 degrees here today.
Really?
Yeah, it's very nice.
Right. It's a balmy 5 degrees, 6 degrees here, I reckon.
Okay.
But compared to, man, it's been Arctic. And summer here is just warm enough for me.
You don't do the cold, do you?
No. I do it for, like, if I'm going to go somewhere like skiing or something, which I haven't done since I was a kid, but you're excited to see the snow and it's going to be amazing, then I'm fine with it. But living in it day to day, no.
Well,
no thanks.
On that subject, Amish Trivedi says, what is that sun thing you're talking about? And Greg Sachs says, greetings from apparently record-breakingly frosty Winnipeg.
Really?
Yeah, apparently so.
Because I had a chat to Joey last week, and he was telling me that the temperature it gets down to there. Can you imagine this, right? You're one of the early migratory races going across the plains, and you turn up in Canada in summer, and you think, yeah,
this is great.
Yeah, this place is all right.
Yeah,
let's
love
pitch
this.
our tents here. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, we'll make do. But then 6 months later, -35 hits, but you're already committed.
Yeah, you've built your shack.
Oh boy!
You've got a herd of elk on the go.
You've painted your moose on the cave walls already.
Yeah,
it's over.
Actually, do you remember I was telling you? Remember I was telling you about a BBC show with Jack D where he treks across Siberia.
Right.
And last night on the BBC they had one with this other guy who's much more interesting, Simon somebody, a sort of a proper documentary maker, explorer. And he was in the same place with all the same dudes. So I reckon the BBC, did a job lot on the trip to Siberia.
He filmed them all.
And they,
in 10-minute segments.
Yeah.
Everyone jumping.
Yeah. It was all the same dudes eating reindeer meat and doing all the same thing. Anyway.
They know how to penny pinch the BBC.
They do. And they also know how to do things properly. Can you imagine that budget?
Probably.
Really? I can't. It's like, yeah, we need to take 20 crew, which means 20 hotel rooms.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Red cameras everywhere. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Avery Amadeus Jacobson says, I'm in Minnesota. It's 20 below here.
Stop it.
Jürgen Burker is in Lower Saxony, Germany. Probably pretty cold there, I would have thought. Someone saying, Dan, Brisbane is stinking hot as usual, says I'm antisocial. You only think you miss the heat. You can always put on a winter coat in the cold, but you can only get so naked in the heat before the police come.
This is true. This is very true. But that stuff, it gets in your bones eventually. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind it, except that it's been a bit of a tough few days. We've had to stop walking the dog, which is really rubbish. Because as part of her training, she's pulling on the lead, and we have to teach her not to pull on the lead. So we've got to train her out of that before we can get her back on the lead, which means I can't walk her anywhere because I can't get her to the walk place, which is really annoying. Right. I mean, don't panic. We have a decent garden and she gets plenty enough exercise, but I really miss the walk.
Yeah.
In the morning. And that's
totally.
Bracing -5, stood up on the top of the hill there, was an energizing experience, I can tell you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If anyone's got any tricks.
It's such a beautiful spot too.
Yeah. Springfield, Missouri here says Grant Ozark Mountain Guitars. Oh, Ozark Mountain.
Woo,
Interesting.
Springfield.
Grand Rapids in Michigan, completely frigid, says Dan Peacock. So it seems to be cold everywhere apart from in Brisbane.
Yeah.
Word up from frozen Minnesota, says Dan Pfeiffer. Thanks for keeping the Monday Q&A going strong.
We were in Minnesota, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah. Which has the largest shopping mall in the world.
Yes.
Which we went to.
Yeah.
And they had that Lego place.
Lego dinosaur.
That blew my mind. Full-size Lego helicopter and stuff.
Yeah.
Really, really cool.
Interesting, you know, we've got quite a few. We've got Dustin Thiessen is on from Winnipeg as well. There's 2 people from Winnipeg, and we've had a couple of people from Minnesota. Interesting, isn't it? From 7 billion people on the planet, we've got 2 in Winnipeg and 2 in. I wonder if any mathematicians out there could work out the stats on that, the probability.
2 in 7 billion?
Yeah, something like that. My friend the scientist here. Hello from Cleveland, Ohio, says Root Rudebush. And Prog Doggy. Hello everyone from Ontario, Canada. Hello. Avery Amadeus Jackson again. It's grey and grim here, says Brian Mills. Brett Hussey. Hey, howdy from Medway, Kent. Good. Well, it's nice. Nice to have so many lovely people on.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us.
Indeed.
We so look forward to our Mondays.
Yeah. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
It does come around very quickly. Have you noticed that, Dan?
Oh man, it does. When you're busy, I cannot get over how fast the weeks go now.
Yeah.
I do, I think obviously not being able to film together's creating, I don't know, it's almost like Groundhog Day now, and therefore I don't have anything that breaks up the week. But hopefully soon there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
There is. I'm sure there is, Daniel.
Yeah.
There you are.
Almost a quarter of the UK has been immunised now.
Yeah, that's amazing. They went through 15 million over the weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, amazing. Doing 500,000 a day, I think they said.
Unreal.
Yeah. Really cool. Really cool. Unless you're a vaccine conspiracy theorist, in which case, not cool at all. We'll just leave you up to that one. Right, moving on. Yeah, good. Everything seems to be okay.
Great.
Right then. To the questions. Ethan Kaplan has been first on today. For those of you who are new, for those of you that are new, sorry, and this is confusing. 2 things. 1, massive thanks to BV Ninja for moderating in the comments section. There's a very nice discussion that goes on there.
I was on Tone Talk on Saturday night, and BV was there as well, moderating for those guys.
He's everywhere.
He's ubiquitous.
Yeah. Maybe he works for Google.
Thank you, BV. You are a legend, and we so appreciate you moderating for us. You're a champion, a legend, king amongst men.
And more. Yeah, thank you. So that's thing number 1. Thing number 2, this happens every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. And me and Dan get together and we just talk about stuff. So if this is your first time, thanks for joining us and welcome.
Yes, indeed.
Ethan Kaplan. He says, I was curious as to the effect of a volume pedal on the ability to push or drive a higher watt amp at lower recording or bedroom levels. Is it better than an attenuator? He says, to better clarify, I'm wanting to get most out of an AC30 or twin reverb in a home studio. Will a volume pedal at the end allow me to do that? Again, thanks, gents, and I appreciate you.
Thanks, Ethan. In a word, no. So by having a volume pedal at the end of your chain, you are changing the amount of level that goes into the input of the amplifier. And what will happen if you want to get amp, like driving amp tones at lower levels, or the sound of the amp pushing the sounds of the power amp stage working, then you have to get it working. And so you need to attenuate it either after the power stage. So something like a Triac power station is really great for that. If your amplifier has an effects loop, you can stick something like the Zenith in the effects loop, which is a compressor with EQ in it from our friends at Hampstead. And you can use that as like just to simulate a little bit of the limiting from the valves, as well as changing that EQ curve a little bit, which is another way to do it. But if all you do is turn down the volume going into the amplifier, all you're going to end up doing is turning up the noise floor as the amp gets louder, but turning down the input level. So you're really not going to see any benefits from that. So it's part of the wider gain staging conversation, where having one gain stage with your overdrive pedals and your guitar, going into the next gain stage, which is your preamp from your amplifier, into the next gain stage, which is the power amplifier. So the way all those gain stages work together is what results in the end outcome. And you'll find if your signal from the guitars is being brought down so much by the volume pedal that second gain stage, the preamp or the amplifier, is just not going to have enough signal to work with.
Cool. So Michael Borella's come in with another question on that, saying, what if you put that volume pedal in the effects loop?
Yeah, so really good question. It depends on a couple of things. It depends on the output impedance of the effects loop. It depends on the input impedance of the volume pedal. It certainly will work to have a volume pedal in the effects loop. Lots of people do it, and it can work really well. It's different. Again, so think about the gain staging. If what you're after is a simple master volume, then great. That really effects pedal in the volume, in the send and return loop of the amplifier, fantastic. But if what you're after is to get the amp cooking and you want that sound, then a volume pedal, exactly the same as having the volume pedal at the front, you're reducing the signal going into the power stage. So you can turn the power stage up so it's absolutely banging, but if the signal going into it's tiny, you're not going to get the sound of that natural limiting of the power stage once the amp is working. You've really got to do that post power stage. Volume pedal in the effects loop is a great way to control the gain, the level of your preamp, if that's where you're getting your gain, but it's not going to give you the sound of the amp, working all lovely and with a power stage. It'll simply reduce the input going into that.
Yes, it might be slightly different on a post-phase inverter master amp. You might have a little bit more joy in the effects loop, but not really. I mean, the only real way to do it is using an attenuator, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yes.
Totally.
And there's lots out there. I have to say, the 100-watt Tone King Iron Man is exceptional. I've used that on the Marshall last week. That's really, really good. It's quite expensive. There's a bunch of ones that are
surprise.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them out there that are much less expensive, and you don't get niceties such as presence and resonance control and things like that.
Yeah,
but
that's huge.
It is huge, but you can make up for it elsewhere. You can make up for it a little bit with EQ pedals. The truth of the matter is, nothing really sounds like a cranked amp except a cranked amp. And by cranking it and then you're attenuating it, that is a cranked amp attenuated, which is a different thing. So it might be that you can, with the right combination of pedals, all the rest of it, actually you can get just satisfying a sound as you can by attenuating the amp. But yeah, twin reverb or AC30, it's really tough to get those cooking and sounding great, because the amount you have to attenuate them by in order to get them down to bedroom level is so much.
Yeah.
Everything just ends up a little bit flat by that point.
Yep. The other thing, if you think of you've got your preamp, you've got your power amp, transformer, and your speakers. So even with the best attenuator in the world, you are then reducing the level going into the speakers, and the speakers are a massive part of that sound when they start driving. So you can make up a bit for that with changing those resonant frequencies, but you get that bit of that cone cry going, and that's part of that sound as well. So it's a tricky thing to do. I think
I totally agree with Dan, and would say that digital tomfoolery at that point is probably the way to go. So something like Aux, Universal Audio Aux, or the Boss Waza tube amp expander, or a Grossman speaker cab like Dan's got. Speaker coffin, crank it.
Oh man,
I've
been working that this week. I'm so happy with that thing.
What does it take off? About 30 dB.
30 dB.
Yeah, so it's not. You'll still hear it. It'll still probably annoy the missus or the mister.
So what I've done is I've punched a little hole in the wall here, and I've got it sat in the next room, so I can't hear anything when I'm recording.
Yeah.
And in that room, if I shut the door, no one hears anything.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
It works really great.
Yeah. So if you had a small human, for example, like one that was that sort of big and can't do anything yet, you wouldn't wake that up?
If it was sleeping in the same room,
it'd
have some funky, it'd have some crazy dreams.
Yeah.
But if it was somewhere else in the house, no, it'd be fine.
Wicked. Okay. Nice. Right, William Young.
I've got a 20-watt speaker in there though, that I'm driving at the moment with a 15-watt amplifier. So if you've got a 100-watt amp and you're hitting an EV or something, then maybe.
Yeah, that'll be
all depends on how you're driving it.
Okay, well, we hope that was helpful, Ethan.
I do love it.
We hope that was helpful. Just to confirm, a volume pedal is not really going to get you there. It's not doing the same. It's not doing the same thing.
No.
William Young, he says, because of rules 1 to 3 of buying a guitar, which for those of you uninitiated are what it looks like, and what it looks like. He says, Palfero boards are really getting in the way of me buying a Vintera Fender. Is there any way of darkening the wood so that it looks as good as rosewood? Well, it's interesting.
One.
Various companies have used ebonizers over the years on various different fretboard woods to make them darker. Yeah, you can stain it. Of course you can. You could just use a bit of fingerboard oil with something in it that will stain it, but that'll always come off on your fingers. That'll never not come off on your fingers. And you know when you're playing an ebonized board or one that's been artificially darkened, because you end up with dark fingers. I would say go with it. Let's talk about the Fender Stevie Ray Vaughan Signature Strat. I think that had Palfero on it all the way back in the day when they first. No
way.
I'm pretty sure it did. I'm pretty sure the SRV Strat had Palfero fingerboard. Secondly, Palfero, in some lights, doesn't look that different to some Brazilian rosewood. Some Brazilian rosewood isn't really dark. It's Indian rosewood that we think of that's crazy dark. I mean, sure, the old Brazilian boards, such as this one, for example. Here you go then. That is a Brazilian rosewood fingerboard. Or at least it should be.
Mick, can you show me?
Hmm?
Just show me, because I want to see what it's like compared to mine.
Hang on, you have to wait, Dan. Showing the people.
Oh, I see. No, I see it. I see it now. Sorry, I've got a massive delay. Yeah. So this is 65. Would this be Brazilian?
It might not be.
Okay.
This might not be either.
Yeah, it is. You know it is. Stop pretending it's not everything.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, it looks like it, but not all Brazilian is really dark like that. Some Brazilian can be really light in colour.
Right.
So if you just use normal fingerboard oil and do it don't do it too regularly so it gets wet, but do it. That'll darken it down naturally a bit. Or just embrace, you know. I remember when Bob Taylor was on an ebony crusade, because Bob Taylor of Taylor Guitars, Taylor took control of one of the last ebony producing mills in the world. I think it was in Cameroon, if I remember correctly. And there are a few guitar companies out there better at marketing than Taylor. And but there's a lot of passion there too. And I think one of Bob's great passions was saying, look, you want your ebony fingerboard completely dark, but you know what? Not all ebony is completely dark. Some of it's got some lovely cream-coloured stripes through it. So let's accept the wood for what it is and go with it. And maybe that's the case for Palferro. I don't know. Or you could use...
Is there some sort of compressed composite, is it?
Palferro?
Yeah.
No, Palferro is Bolivian rosewood.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a different kind of wood. I mean, I'm saying Bolivian rosewood. I think that's not a correct term. I think it's referred to as that sometimes. Yeah, it's just a different species. Ah, there he is.
Let's see, look.
Has he had a brush down? He looks all...
He's just been to the groomers.
Yeah, he looks great.
Go to your dad, man.
Woof.
Yeah, he's lovely.
Hey, Ziggy. One day Rosie will be as calm as you.
Go on then.
Okay, we can see Rosie before the end of the episode as well. Yeah, so fingerboard oil. I don't know. You could try mixing a bit of brown shoe polish with it or something, but it will come off on your hands.
Come on.
Yeah, there's probably various sites online that will go into more detail. I think they changed the rules on rosewood again, didn't they?
Yeah, I'm not sure where we are at the moment with it. It's been a few different.
I think there's been an exemption granted on certain musical instruments, because what they did is they slapped all, for those of you who don't know, Brazilian rosewood. Trying to think of the Dalbergia Negra, maybe Dalbergia, something like that. Brazilian rosewood. Anyway, you can look up the correct Latin name for it. Was put on the Appendix 1 of the CITES protected species list some time ago, and it's been illegal to use it, or at least not illegal. You've had to jump through massive hoops in order to be able to use it and export it for many, many, many years. And then a few years ago, they put all the other species of Dalbergias on there as well, which was Indian rosewood, which is you'll find on the fingerboards of most modern guitars that have rosewood fingerboards. And that caused a massive headache for all the big guitar companies, so Fender, Martin, Gibson, everyone, and that's why Fender shifted to using Palferro on the fingerboards of more of the cost-effective guitars, because Indian rosewood became very, very problematic to use and ship and import and export. You needed all kinds of licenses. I mean, there were importers of guitars into Europe who didn't get any guitars for like 4 or 5 months because of the extra stuff. Anyway, I think they've lifted that.
Really?
And they've granted some sort of exception to musical instruments. Because the truth of the matter is, from an environmental perspective, the use of all those rosewoods, percentage-wise in guitars, is really, really, really tiny. And the guitar manufacturers pay absolutely top dollar for it. So
right.
In some way, if you sustainably used those rosewoods only for guitars, then there's plenty of it available, and it's a good...
Yeah, sure, of course.
However,
right.
Why should guitars be given that privilege? You know, there's plenty of other people that want to use all those.
Because they're awesome.
Well. Yeah, well, I would say so. So anyway, blah blah blah. Conservationists, no doubt, probably going crazy out there, but yes, there we are. Right. Where are we then? Oh, blimey, Dan, we started on a massive tangent today.
We did.
This
is the way.
Ryan R is on. Hi, Ryan. He says, I'm switching between a Les Paul and a Strat. With the output drop on the Strat, is it okay to put a Boss GE7 at the start of my chain to up the level a bit and tweak the EQ for the difference between the Les Paul and the Strat? What are the options? Thanks and love to you guys. We get asked this a lot. It's a really good
question. You can. There are devices out there that you can switch between the guitars and change level. I'd be careful with EQ. Using it sparingly, of course, is great. But are you wanting to make the Strat sound like the Les Paul? The one thing that you'll find as well with the Strat's got a much greater dynamic range than the Les Paul. So even though it sounds weedier, you get some gain in there and start hitting it with the Strat, and you'll be surprised just how far that you can go with that with the Strat. Because of it doesn't compress or limit like the humbuckers do. So certainly, if your rig isn't sensitive to a buffer at the input, and you want to put a volume boost in there with the Strat, fantastic. But I mean, when I got my Les Paul, I searched for years for a Les Paul that would work with my teley, because I love a bright teley, and so my rig is designed around that. And all the Les Pauls I tried were just too dark. And it wasn't until I found this Les Paul that it worked with my current setup, and the SG, the Les Paul Junior, and the other guitars I have, they tend to be pretty bright, and like Matchlesses and AC30s and that sort of stuff. So the guitars had to work in that context. Finding a Les Paul and re-EQing it really wasn't an option.
Dan, can I address a little OCD point that I'm having at the moment?
What's the problem?
Could you sit in the middle of your screen, please?
Oh, I can.
Thanks.
How's that?
That's really much better, thanks.
Okay.
I was struggling to concentrate. Les Pauls and Strats, we get asked that so many times because, as Dan alluded, there is a frequency difference. It might be that peak level, they're no different in volume, but because the Les Paul tends to have that extra lower mid and bottom end girth, or certainly mid and lower mid girth, it's always going to sound louder.
Yeah.
One of the ways, so for a start, Dan and I tend to prefer the guitars as kind of vintage voiced as possible. And actually, once you get down there to old school PAFs and vintage Strat and teley pickups, the guitars don't vary massively in volume anyway. You don't get this massive kick that you would get with a modern ceramic humbucker or something like that. In any case, if you do, the other thing that we would both do, probably without even thinking about it in some respects, is if you're the kind of person who's got 2 or 3 overdrives on your pedal board, and if not, why not, then you might find that one works better with the Strat, that one works better with the Les Paul, or you've always got your clon style on or your booster on, or not. And in that sense, the EQ, if it's being used for a subtle lift rather than a radical EQ change, why not? I think that could work. Just be aware of the fact that depending on what other pedals you've got, whether they're true bypass or whether they're buffered bypass, adding that extra buffer from the EQ will also give you a massive high-end kick as well, depending on what your other pedals are. So maybe a good thing, may not be. But why not? Why not?
Riley Anderson says, Central Alberta in Canada. Car died this morning. Frozen battery, minus 34 degrees. Oh, man.
That's cold.
I remember I was a fan of that of Monkey when I was a kid. The show with Trippy Tucker and Monkey. And one of the guys, for some bizarre reason, I remember the scene. It was really cold. He was... and like, it must be cold. That's the only thing I really remember from Monkey from when I was like 11, 12 years old.
Nice. I don't know if the internet was censoring you there, Dan.
Oh, did it censor me?
It did.
The
feed died for a minute there, and I wonder if it was censoring you for some sort of xenophobic slur there.
Not at all. I love that TV show. It was brilliant.
Well, we're never going to know what you said, are we? That's the thing.
Okay, no.
Yeah, we've been having internet fun today. Didn't he? He used to do that, didn't he? And make his cloud appear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonder what he's doing now. If indeed he's still with us.
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Eric Morgan. Hi, Eric. Eric says, I love the show, guys. Dan, I'm curious if Gigrig has any plans to accommodate pedals that need AC power. I've got a Hughes and Kettner Rotosphere that I will be buried with, but it's 12 volts AC, and it limits my power supply options.
Yeah, look, it's so interesting.
Is it really AC?
I'm looking at it. To do, it's really easy to do an AC supply, an AC thing from AC power, which is a transformer. It gets tricky if you go to a DC supply and you want to sort of re-rectify back to AC. That's really, really hard. But I'm looking at that stuff. I've got a like an old Whammy and the old DL4, which has changed power supply requirements a bit from time to time, but there is one that's AC only. And so, yeah, it would be a really good thing to have. So, I'm looking at it. It's on the list. It's on the list.
John Gregory, hi John. He says, I've got a Supro Trem for the trem effect, but I'm amazed how good a gain sound it is. TS after is killer. Thank you guys as always. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, the Supro Tremolo, which was definitely my favourite harmonic trem before the Harmonious Monk came along, has a gain knob on it. And at 0, it's still louder than Unity. At maximum, I think there's a transformer in there actually. It just gives this lovely overdrive sound. It's really cool.
It's very cool.
If you want to use it.
Very cool.
Nice one, John.
Nice one, John.
Greetings from Lower Saxony, Germany, says Jürgen Burker. We had that earlier. Thank you, Jürgen. And Albus Band, Aaron, says, feels like -11 and we're set for another 12 hours of snow. Thank God for Dan on Tone Talk on Saturday and you guys live today. It's the only warmth I get.
Bless you.
Yeah, I like places that don't normally get really cold are getting really cold, aren't they?
Yeah.
And Nashville really cold at the moment.
Oh, it's snowing in Texas.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
There you go.
Well, interestingly enough, on the aforementioned Siberian Adventure on TV last night, they were doing a big thing on these huge holes that are opening up where the permafrost is melting.
Right.
So it's getting warmer there and colder here. Interesting. Dave says, have you guys checked out the Fjord Fuzz Norwegian-made fuzz pedals? They sound and look pretty spectacular, and apparently it's an original circuit. I haven't.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Don't know them. Would love to have a look.
Yeah. I mean, they're from Norway and they're called Fjord, so they've got to be cool.
Have you been to Norway?
Yep.
Love Norway.
Yeah, I had a great time there. A very lovely guy I knew there called Irvin Feld, and Irvin ran the guitar or the instrument building part of the Music Instrument Academy which was somewhere there. And yeah, we had a blues jam and I played a 53 gold top for the first time.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, it was really cool. Anyway.
These are the things that we'll remember.
We will. When did you go to Norway, Dan?
I did a gig there with Dougie. That was so funny. We did. It's become a really good mate. Actually, we've been doing these. We did these gigs years ago, and for this guy, he's in the oil business. Anyway, he had this exhibition on Norway. He says, "Oh, can you guys come and play on my yacht out of Norway?" So we said, "Of course we can." So we went out there. And it is so breathtakingly beautiful when you get up into that area where the fjords and things are. You can't really describe it.
Yeah.
it's just, I've never seen anything like it. So amazing. And the people were great. But this gig, far out, man. So we ended up doing it on the, they had like a little barge they put next to the yacht. And do you remember the band, there's a comedy duo that did a song called What Does the Fox Say?
I don't.
Anyway, it was a few years ago, and they had played this massive gig before us, and they had stadium seating and that sort of stuff was sort of right in front of where the boats were. And then when they finished, we started playing on the dock. We must have had, I don't know, 1,000 people jumping around to us being idiots it was just wonderful, and met some fascinating people. It's just really, really wonderful time.
What did the fox say, just out of interest?
He said a lot of things.
Oh, okay.
He said a lot of
was
things.
Was it a play on the word fox?
No, it's intelligible nonsense, basically.
My mother's father, that grandfather, bless him, may he rest in peace. His favourite joke had the punchline, "And I shot the focker down." It was a wartime joke based on a Fokker plane. For those of you who don't know, there's a German plane manufacturer called Fokker, Fokker.
Yes.
Anyway,
my stepfather had that joke.
Let's move north again and hear from Bjorn Lodvar Larsen, who says, "I know Oyvind." So that's good.
Awesome.
Yeah, nice. I was just checking to see if anyone else knew what the fox says, but
no, it's seriously, it's
Andre Ducan says, what does the fox say is wonderful. Jason Carter says there's a lot of good cars in Norway: the Fjord Cougar, the Fjord Escort, and the Fjord Focus.
Very good. Very good.
We bow to you, Jason. We bow to you. That was really spectacular. Matthew Ingalinera says, any recommendations for Uni-Vibe?
Yes, a harmonic tremolo.
Yeah, I got 2: Jam Pedals Retro Vibe Mark II and the Vibe Machine by whoever that's by.
Yep. My recommendation would be if you can find one, a Mojo Vibe.
Yeah.
From Sweet Sound. They're wonderful.
Yeah. Bob Sweet died, didn't he? So I don't know. And someone else started building them.
His family, I think, took over and continued to make them.
So Dry Bell Vibe Machine.
Oh, the Dry Bell. Yes, of course. That thing is amazing. I'm going to have to do a FaceTime with Andy and sit down and get him to help me get that one set up. Because he had his on, and he had that throb bub thing going with his.
Yeah,
and there's some settings.
We dialed it in that day, didn't we? Do you remember?
Oh, we did we?
Yeah, we couldn't. We didn't think it sounded very good to begin with, and then we messed around with the trim pots, and then it was okay. There it is.
There it is. Right. Okay. Great. Yeah, that thing is amazing.
So there you go. Dan, here's a donation towards more DSP. Your personal history on Tone Talk was fascinating, says Jolly Willard.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Yes,
I was lamenting the lack of DSP in my my twin quad, where I can only get. I've started to put some tracks together. I'm like, I haven't even got to the vocals yet, and I've run out of plugins.
Okay, we need to sort that out for you. I'll have to have a talk with Uncle Tom, see if we can upgrade our studio Apollos and kit you out with one of these.
Yeah, or you just get one of those extender things. What are they called?
Oh yeah, yeah. For anyone who's not following, Dan and I are addicted to universal audio interfaces, and the little ones have a certain amount of DSP, so you can run a certain amount of plugins, and then those are the expensive ones. And then when you get to remortgage level, then you can run all the plugins you want in the world, and it's worth it.
The issue is they make the plugins, the UI plugins are so good.
Yeah.
It's that, I just want to, put a different like a Neve 1073 on there or something.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that sounds so good. I want it on everything. No, you can't have it on everything. You choose the one you want it on, and that's your lot.
Yeah,
But yeah, they're
well,
great.
You
really
can
great.
if you buy the accelerators and all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to get you, because I've got the Quad X version of your little twin.
Oh, do
and
you?
that is incredibly powerful. You can do loads of stuff on that one. So, yeah, let's see if we can improve that for you. Anyway, Jolly does have a question, which was, were Pete Cornish rigs really as expensive as a house in Australia? And why?
So when I was looking at, I was working on did a day's work on Mark Lazotte's rig. I mean, it was a massive rig, and I think that was about $100,000 at the time, which was about the price of a house in Australia. And that was, you know, we're talking 90, I want to say 94. So a long time ago. Yeah. But the rig, seriously, the pedal board was custom molded. So none of this get out your 2x4 and a bit of plywood, and, you know, it was molded with a circular base for his microphone stand, because he wanted a circular microphone stand, and the pedal board molded around that. The cable that connected from the board to the racks was this, you know, it took two guys to lift this cable. It was this, you know, it was incredible, sonically unsurpassed. I mean, you know, Pete Cornish, his work is far out. It's so great. But yeah, to get him to build a rig like that, in fact, it's, you know, he was building, you know, he's Gilmore and Brian May and, you know, all these guys. But the effort that went into one of his rigs, the manual, the handwritten manual, and it was the most beautiful manual you've ever seen, you know. So yeah, really, really expensive. So you know, if you could afford it, worth every penny.
The extended question from that is, why has switching technology become more affordable, says Jolly?
It wasn't so much the switching technology in that one. It was, if you can imagine, that rig, once Pete has put a rig together, you can't, without it's difficult to change it, right? And everything is matched, you know, impedances and everything. So it wasn't just the switching, which was amazing, but that was a custom designed rig to do a specific job. Switching technology, let's see, why has it gotten cheaper? You couldn't really compare, say, what Gig Rig does to what Pete Cornish does. Gig Rig is, you know, you buy it, you put it together, you make everything switch, which is great. Pete, you know, builds these things specifically to purpose, by hand, component by component. It's a different thing. So yeah, it's not so much that the technology's gotten cheaper. I mean, you know, things like memory has gotten cheaper, processing has gotten cheaper, all that stuff has gotten cheaper. The actual, you know, whether you're using relay technology or matrix technology, that's, you know, that's always going to be, you know, a sort of a fixed cost. But the power behind that has gotten cheaper. Like with any, you know, look at take a digital delay, you know, take a free the tone flight time, for example. Go back 20 years or, you know, or whatever, and get a unit to do what that thing can do now. It's going to be, you know, a huge amount of cost just in the memory alone, you know. It's yeah.
Cool. Captain Sexy 90 says, Mick, a good friend of mine is loaning me a 1962 Strat. It's so good I want to cry. I will never be the same Captain Sexy again. Love from Norway. No, you are Captain Sexier now, aren't you? That's the truth
Captain
of that.
Sexier, yes. It's so interesting that once you've played a really beautiful vintage guitar, and this is like the new guitars are fantastic. I love Red. They are quite often they're easier to play, but once you've held an old guitar in your hand and you've plugged it in you and you've had swang on it, man, it's hard to go back.
It is. I think there are a few caveats to that, aren't there? For me, right, number one, some people really, really don't like old guitars.
Sure.
Exactly what you just said. Clunky, can be harder to play, usually harder to keep in tune. When you first plug a vintage Strat in, I mean, to be fair, when you first plug a modern Strat in, you're like, wow, this is really thin and weird. And, you know, if you come from playing a guitar that's got more apparent guts. And some people just really like modern, easy to play, beautifully made boutique guitars, and absolutely nothing negative whatsoever to say about that. But some people really, really love old guitars. And if you plug them in and play them loud in a nice room, it is just a totally different experience. And I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense that it should be that way.
No.
It might be that a good proportion of it is psychosomatic.
Yep.
Again, doesn't matter.
That's okay.
Unless you can reprogram that, it doesn't matter. Anyway, good for you with the 62 Strat. I'm interested to feel the neck profile on that. It got a bit bigger in 62 through 63. The 61 that I have custody of at the moment is not small as such, not as small as they were in 60 generally, but is a little bit smaller, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, I love how your neck, it gets thicker as it goes up.
They all did
quite
that.
Substantially so. Yeah,
that was a common thing. They don't seem to do that so much anymore, where the depth behind the nut and the depth behind the 12th fret, there's sort of an apparent widening 7th, 8th, 9th fret kind of, and it got thicker there, and they don't seem to do that on the... Anyway, talk about this for days. William Turner from Sweden is saying, I have a once-in-a-lifetime chance to buy a Magnatone 480 Custom. Will it work with a Vox AC15 hand-wired for wet and dry? Does the Magnatone take pedals?
I think that sounds spectacular.
Yeah. I've only ever heard two real Magnatones in the flesh, I think. One was that day we went to Mike at ATB. And we used it for the whole session. So if you want to hear a Magnatone, go there. And we used it in a wet-dry session. So I think it's called Vintage Guitar Extravaganza. Don't even know what the model is. It's listed in the video description. But we used that wet-dry with... Don't even know what it was. Something else. All the details are in there. And secondly, I went to visit Martin Simpson once. Awesome British guitar player and singer. And he just got one. He's big mates with Richard Hawley. And they go to the same guitar shop in Sheffield somewhere, I think it was. And You got any of those Magnatones? And he came back and he was playing me the harmonic tremolo, or, you know, the Magnatone tremolo sound before I had any idea what it was. And I was like, wow, that sounds unbelievable. So what do we say, Dan? We say yes. Yes! We say go for it.
Never postpone joy.
Yeah.
Yes, do it.
Jason Carapazzi, hi Jason, and thank you always for interesting questions. He says, D&M, we agree that the Les Paul, the Strat, the Teley and the 335 are the four main pillars of guitar. I think we do. So, who is the player for each model? And you may choose only one. And bonus question, what year for each guitar?
Boy, oh boy. Okay. You take the Strat.
Okay, Strat. It's very hard to pick a year because anything for me from 59 to 64, 5 is cool. So I'm going to go with 62. So 62 Strat in the hands of... this is impossible. Because you want to say Hendrix, right? You really want to say Hendrix because he did things on the Strat that no one else before or since has done. And he completely changed it. This is really tough. You know, everyone would expect me to say Stevie Ray. But then there's E flat to take into consideration. Oh, no, I can't do this.
Got to do it.
Okay, I'm going to say 62 Strat, or, you know, his 59 stroke 63, whatever it was, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Okay, very good.
When Martians come down and they go, what is a Strat? I'll say it's that. But
right.
that bears no resemblance to what Hank Marvin did on his.
Cool.
Who is equally important, maybe more important.
Yeah. I am going to say...
You're going for telly?
Yeah, I'm going to do telly. I really should do like a Blackguard 52 and like Danny Gatton. I'm not going to do that though. That's what I should do. What I'm going to say is I'm going to say 63 Joe Strummer.
Nice.
Because the thing for me with the telly, that it does everything. But when you hear a Telecaster bridge pickup into a turned up AC30, that's the thing, you know, obviously Andy Summers and all that sort of stuff's amazing. But when I first heard Joe Strummer, that sound hit me really hard. So I would say, you know, I'm going to go out and say, okay, yep, Joe Strummer, 63.
Mm. A. Antonson says it's Mark Knopfler for the Strat. Do you know what? He was going around in my head. I bought Communique recently on vinyl, just because I'd gone to Anderton's to buy a Strat with my mate Paul. And we were massive Dire Straits fans as kids, and he introduced me to Dire Straits, and we were talking about it. And I bought Communique. I bought it on vinyl and put it on and listened to it. And it was astonishing. I hear so much of the kind of phrasing and licks that I play now and chord progressions that I play now. Not that I...
Wow.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not comparing myself to Knopfler or say I sound anything like him. I don't. But I hear so much of the tonality of what I hear now as a Strat sound as Knopfler from that record.
Amazing.
Which I always thought was other players like SRV and Clapton and stuff. But Knopfler was such a massive influence to me, and I'd almost completely blanked him out from all of that.
See, he would probably be my Les Paul guy.
Yeah.
Well, the Brothers in Arms thing is that was really special. But
oh, we've lost him again. We've lost him again.
Oh no.
Yeah. Hang on, Dan. Hang on.
Am I back? Okay. Yeah.
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
Still not back. Yeah, try now.
Okay. You do 335.
Well, it's got to be. I mean, I know it was a 355, but it's got to be BB King.
Very good.
And if it's okay. Actually, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go 335 Larry Carlton, 345 Freddie King, 355 BB King.
Very good. I thought you'd be Eric Clapton.
Yep. Yep. Clapton, but you can't. You know, there's no Clapton without BB King.
Yeah. Okay, so Les Paul. Boy, oh boy, it's tricky. You would say, man. You could even go with someone like Slash, you know.
I'm going to say Clapton.
Clapton with Les Paul. Okay, yes, okay, great.
Because that guitar, until he played it in 65, it was dead and gone.
Okay, spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on.
But then what about Peter Green? What about Paul Kossoff? What about the dude in Led Zeppelin?
I was going to say Peter Green, but his Les Paul was modded, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's not, you know, as epic as he was, it's not really fair. Paul Kossoff, yes, but I still think...
I don't know.
You're right.
Oh, well, that's probably a Les Paul, isn't it? On the bridge pickup?
Yep.
It's impossible.
But no, I think you're right. I think that's got to go to Clapton.
Jason, thank you for the question.
Very good.
Brad, I'm searching for an overdrive to pair with my Ryra, the clone. I play a Les Paul into a Victory V40. Cheers. So you've got a Ryra V40 and you play a Les Paul and you want an OD to pair with it.
Okay. Literally. Oh man. Okay.
Literally anything.
Yeah. It could with that setup. Okay. Some really good. Well, I've got to say, D&M Drive I think will work spectacularly with that.
It would.
If you're looking for a lighter overdrive, light speed, a blues driver,
yeah,
will give you a nice gain range. The Was a Blues driver will be perfect. You've got things like Thorpe Gunshot. You've got the Timmy. Man, far out. It's endless. It is endless.
A lot of what Dan is talking about is pretty versatile. So he mentioned the Thorpe Gunshot, which is really versatile, lovely sounding overdrive. The Timmy, unbelievably versatile overdrive. All of which would be great choices. I'm going to choose something a bit out there and say the Mythos Chupacabra.
Ah, done.
Mythos Chupacabra. Check it out.
Yeah, very, very cool.
Nina Head DJ. Nina Head DJ says, hello from Astoria, Oregon. Thank you for the show. Thank you for being with us.
You're so welcome.
I'm assuming Oregon is OR. It is, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. Andrew Moorish, or Morish. Oh no, hang on. Iron Wolf 1776 says, around here we walk our dogs at -20 to -30. Man up.
Boy, oh boy.
Nice. I'm not sure I would do that. I'm not sure my dog would do that. Interestingly enough, when it snowed and I took Rosie for a walk, I was a bit worried about her feet, like half an hour in the snow. Because it was, frozen ground. I was like, well, I wonder if they could get frostbite or anything like that. But I guess then you think about huskies and stuff, which live there. So
yeah.
She's not husky. Does Ziggy like the snow, Dan?
Ziggy gets in two minds about the snow. He is trepidatious to start, but then if he sees his friend across the green in the snow, he goes nuts.
Right.
Yeah, but it takes him a few minutes to like, ooh, he's a bit I don't know, he's definitely a home dog.
Yeah.
If it's raining, he will not go outside, But yeah.
Good on him. I know how he feels. Andrew Moorish, or Morish, says, guys, I'm struggling with delays, getting far too massive and swampy when using boosts and solo drives, etc. The amp is a 633 single channel amp with no effects loop. Yes, it is. Very nice indeed. I can't get a second amp just yet. Any ideas? What about parallel and where to split or join the chain? Yeah, so
okay.
Andrew's talking about a really common problem here. So if you've got your delay at the end of the chain, or it doesn't matter where you've got it actually, if the amp is working a bit, especially if the amp is working a bit, there's a certain amount of level hitting your delay pedal. You turn on a pedal before that, boom, everything gets louder, the delay goes off the scale, and gets uncontrollable when you do that. Dan?
Yeah, it is tricky. If your amp has headroom, then it's less of a problem because your amp can deal with those levels. But as soon as the amp turns up and the amp is limiting going into overdrive, then you've got much less dynamic range, and therefore into a clean amp where you might have your delay set on 20%, and that's just enough. Into the dirty amp, that 20% sounds like the delay's on 100. So that's the difference in dynamic range. It is a really tricky thing. One thing to do is to actually move your delay before the boost. Move your delay further forward in the chain and set the delay so that it's already working with the gain. So, you set the delay so it's barely on, and it can sound fantastic. And shorter delay times as well can sound really good. And so that when you boost after that, you're simply, you're not increasing the level into the delay. You're simply taking that whole signal and boosting it into the amplifier. So, yeah, don't be afraid to move the delay a few pedals closer to the front of the guitar.
I'm going to say, depending on what the delay pedal is, and it might warrant a change of delay pedal, use an expression pedal to control the delay level. So
that's a very, very good suggestion.
That's exactly what I do because of exactly the same problem. So if you take something like, it's not here, I don't know where it is. Yes, it is. Now, there are lots of delay pedals out there that will take an expression pedal that can control a number of parameters. This one, the Catlin Bread Belly Pop Deluxe, will enable you to control the delay level. So what that also gives you is continuous control. So you might think, well, actually what I could do is get a multifunction delay like the Boss DD200 or even the Analog Man ARDX20, which has got two that you can, and have 2 or 3 selectable delays. But what's great about this is it's continuously controllable. So you can have it on 1 or 5 or 10 or 100. Not only that, it sounds totally awesome.
Yeah.
And that will solve all your problems.
So good.
Yeah. So look for a delay pedal that's got expression pedal control for delay level. And then when you turn your overdrive pedals on, you can just ease back the level a bit so that it's not so swampy. Dan, who do we know who does that?
Stephen Wilson.
And?
You?
Andy Timmins?
Hey, Timmins, yeah, baby.
Yeah, so there's 2 absolutely stellar guitar players who do that in real life for real. Good luck.
Indeed.
Conor McCabe. Suggestions for pickup upgrades for an Ibanez Artcore semi-hollow. Single tone, single volume, dual humbucker. What about P-rails for versatility? I like the possibility of both single coil and humbucker sound, says Conor McCabe. Yeah, I put P-rails in a Yamaha Pacifica once.
Yeah, I remember that. You brought it in. You set it on fire.
It's a really interesting sound. So there's a good point of debate here, which says a single coil housed in a humbucker size pickup is never going to sound like a single coil. And then the question is it closer than a really nice vintage PAF?
Yeah.
Which, when cranked, sounds great, and when you turn it down, sounds really crisp and clean and hollow and all of those things that you want it to sound like. I can speak for both of us probably by saying that our choice would definitely be the best type vintage PAF you can find, Dan.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I know the original artist, the Ibanez artist, that I love the pickups on those. They were fantastic.
It's an Artcore.
The Artcore.
Yeah,
they look very similar to the others, don't they? The Artcore.
No, Artcore's like the Artcore is what they call their semi-hollow guitars. So it'll either be a dual cutaway 335 style or a single cutaway, like 175 with a thinner body, that kind of thing. So definitely
Okay.
a semi-hollow guitar.
Yeah. Yes. I think I'm thinking of the Ibanez artists, the old 70s artists, they had solid body or semi-hollow, and
Is that the
all
one that
stuff.
John Schofield plays?
Yes. John Schofield, John Abercrombie, Andy Partridge. Those guys playing that, and they're great. And I loved the pickups in those. I thought they were wonderful. But yeah, I think I've got to go with Paths with those guitars. I think it sound just mega.
It is the sound. But yeah, I mean, P-Rails, why not? For anyone not who doesn't know what a P-Rails is, it's got a rail. So it's a double coil pickup. One of them is a P90 type coil, and the other is a rail humbuckery type thing. But in one pickup housing with a little switch, and you can choose both one or the other. I don't think they're crazy expensive, so you could always give it a go. Or maybe try the P-Rails in the bridge and a regular PAF in the neck or something. Give it a go. Seattle Phil. Hello, Seattle Phil. I'm assuming you come from Seattle. In which case, welcome. Thank you for the music over the years. I'm thinking about getting a stereo combo to pair with my Princeton with a 12-inch speaker for wet, dry, wet. I'm looking at a Roland JC40, Orange Rocker 32 or Swart Stereo Master Head and Cab. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, really interesting. So I've recently been looking at this, not the stereo thing, but the solid state thing. The JC40 is really good. They are very hissy. Makes it very difficult to record with. But it's really unfortunate because they sound great. Really like the Orange Rocker. I think they're really good sounding amplifiers. I used to have an old Yamaha stereo amp, and it had a parametric EQ and everything in it. It was fantastic. Recorded our first ever EP when I was 16 with that, and I bought some EV Black Widow speakers or Black Shadow speakers, and put them in that. And oh man, it was great. Yeah, there's a couple of good options out there. I think the orange one, the Rocker 32, because that's also got 10-inch speakers as well, from memory.
His Princeton actually has a 12, but...
oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
Because I think the orange has got 10-inch speakers. But they sound really good. They do sound really great.
There's a couple of things I would think about there. One is a practical consideration with physical proximity. So if you take a one box amp like a JC40 or the Rocker 32 as your stereo amp, your dry, unless you stick it on top, can't be in the middle of the two stereo things. So for recording, that's not going to matter because you've got mics on the speakers and you can pan them however you want. But for your sort of in-room experience of the stereo, you might want to get a little bit of physical separation between those two speakers, in which case they need to be in different boxes. Secondly, there's a number of ways to do wet, dry, wet. So the correct, the technically correct wet, dry, wet is to only have 100% wet in your stereo amp. So you don't have the dry signal present, and there have been players over the years that have done that. Robin Ford is one, Larry Carlton is one, where they would use a full range like PA speaker, like a power PA speaker, to take only the wet effects, as it would be like a parallel mix in terms of like you would do it in a studio. Now, interestingly enough, Laney, Great British company Laney, made a product called the IRTX, I think it was called, and it was like this little wedge-shaped, full range, flat response, essentially made for doing wet, dry and wet, dry, wet. And they're pretty small, and it's basically like two hi-fi speakers that you can feed off the effects loop or wherever, or take a direct send from wherever you want to take it. And that would do your wet only sound. So you get this very hi-fi kind of, like if you would only want to send your wet sounds to those two things, which is a more sort of hi-fi way of doing it than what Dan and I call wet, dry, which is actually damp, dry and
damp.
wet. So in our dry amp, we'll usually have a bit of reverb, and then in the wet amps, we've got the dry sound as well. It's not wet at all, really. It's everything. It's
still wet dry.
It's most things, everything. So, yeah, think about how you might want to do that. But do check out the Laney IRTX. I still don't know if they still make it, and then going even more bonkers, you could look at a little stereo rack power amp feeding two flat range full response speakers. That would be really cool too.
Yep, very cool.
As for a sort of produced approach to what you're doing.
If you go and check out the show that we did with Devon Townsend,
that's exactly what he did, wasn't it? Two PA speakers.
Exactly what he did. He had a valve amp in the center going to, and all the pedals and everything go straight to the valve amp, and then out of that, the split would then go into his rack, what's it called, Axe Effects, into the full range PA, and that would just do his stereo effects. Yeah. And that was unreal.
Yeah, it was a massive sound, absolutely massive sound. And of course, the other benefit of if you're running 100% wet into those into your stereo, you don't have to worry about latency so much because there's no dry sound present. It's only the effects, the reverbs and delays that are on top. So then if you're using anything digital, it's not such a big deal. Good luck. Michael Carter says, when the two of you were playing live, if you can remember back then, were there actually times when you felt a single coil sound was too thin? Does the presence of keyboards or another guitar matter?
Never had a problem with single coil sounding thin.
Regardless of pickup, it's only if it's too quiet is where I've thought it's too thin.
Yeah.
But no, I wouldn't say so. I've had the opposite problem many times where a humbucker's been too muddy.
Yeah, very true.
And then probably what that points towards is how you grew up and how you built your tones. So, from the age of 14, 13, it was, I never had a humbucker guitar until probably well into my 30s, maybe late 20s, mid late 20s.
Man, my Striker by
I tell
Crane,
a lie. I had one of those.
my first guitar, just single humbucker in the bridge.
Yeah,
man.
So
what an idiot.
So what about keyboards or another guitar, Dan? I would say that the denser the mix, the thinner your guitar sound kind of needs to be in a way.
Yeah, or at least have the bright edge to it.
Yeah.
Keys are great. Depends what the keyboard's doing because they can do so many things. But if they're doing traditional, whirly keys, clav type things, you do have to be a bit more mindful about frequency and make sure that you're not stepping on each other's toes. But generally, not really an issue.
No, nor me. It's probably worth saying at this point that, these kind of insanity type tones that me and Dan are getting every week in here, or, I don't know, take Rabir or anybody else out there doing videos getting lovely big sounds, that sounds largely unusable in a live situation.
Sure.
You'd probably be dialing off quite a lot of the bass, and certainly when recording you'd be low cutting and all of that. Listen to some guitar sounds from the 60s. Listen to 60s pop records and how trebly those guitars are.
Yeah,
and how little bass there is in them. So these huge guitar sounds that we've all become accustomed to, which are great, for chumming on and going, hey, listen to my overdrive pedal. I think once you get into a band, you probably end up shelving a load of that bottom end off, and the whole thing is thinner anyway.
Yeah.
I certainly do, but yeah. Paul Hammingson has super chatted but has no question, so hopefully we'll come back to you in a minute, Paul. Hello from Minnesota, says Maniacal Lion. You legends are helping me find my sound. Broadcast, Foxtone
Ah, bless
Machine,
you.
OCD, Carbon Copy, DD200 and a 1970 Twin. Thanks for inspiring. Oh my God.
Nice.
I want to hear the broadcast into the 1970 Twin. That must be arresting. In a good way.
Yeah.
Jay Hazeman. Hi Jay. Hi from Somerset. Well, hello from Somerset. I made my first pedal board because of you guys, having not played guitar for 10 years. And thank you for all that you do. Thank you, Jay.
You're so welcome, mate. Thank you. Well done on your pedal board.
Nice one. Welcome to the gang. He says, if you could have written one song in history, what would it be?
Probably Grace by Jeff Buckley.
Oh, that is a thinking person's choice, is that?
Yeah, that's that. I do. Yeah, I mean that. That album changed my life, and that song. Can you imagine if you'd written that song? What it must have been like, sat in front of the monitors, hearing that mix back.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh my God, I just can't get anywhere near that. I can't get any near. You know what's great about that choice? It's classic, it's contemporary. There's nothing cliched about it. It was he was a true original pioneer, was Jeff Buckley. So I'm going to have to say, oh God, because it's not what's your favourite song. It's what song would you like to have written? It's going to be a Beatles song, and I'm just
Very nice.
fighting for the right Beatles song. Don't know. Can't think of one.
Tricky. I also would have loved to have written Paranoid Android by Radiohead. The epicness of it. But yeah, I've got to choose one. It's got to be Grace.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so hard. Oh God. We haven't, Love Story by Randy Newman.
Nice! Dude! Very good.
Yeah, there you go. I had to pick something not obvious. George Radcliffe says, Dan, how does the current model Deluxe Electric Mistress compare to your favourite vintage Electric Mistress? Are they the same or similar? The stereo Electric Mistress, seems to be a different animal altogether. We've lost him again, which is good because he has to put his politically correct head on at this point.
I think the reissues are really good.
No, you don't. You don't, do you?
Yeah.
Be honest, please.
No. Okay, here it is. If you when you change things to make things quieter and to make things like set a larger input signal and appeal to a broader palette, it changes everything. There's nothing like an 18 volt, 76 Mistress. They're just not. And if I've seen videos people go, oh, it sounds just like a new one. And, they've got all this noise and stuff going. That's fine. If you hear any flanger in context, it's like, yeah, it sounds fine. You sit down with an old Mistress, you plug into it, you feel it, and you plug into a new one and go, and you tell me it's the same. Sorry.
Just not. Okay, so the thornier question then, new Electric Mistress or Thorpe Camouflage?
It depends for what. I will never sell my Mistress, and I will, and for certain things I'll record with it, but the camera flange is the one that's on my board because it is beautiful. I can do a lot more with it. The mix control in it is something I always wanted with my Mistress. So yeah, they're both exceptional, and I can get really close to the Mistress with camera flange. It's not a Mistress, but it's the one that's on the board. And
Sorry,
I do love it.
I think you might have missed the question because the internet's so bad. New electric Mistress or camouflage?
Oh, my goodness. Okay, camouflage every day of the week.
Yeah, there you go. So the answer to your question, George, is Thorpe camouflage. That's we've been through this.
It's exceptional.
Dan is a massive flanger nerd, as you know, and he loves that electric Mistress so much. And he spent 4 years that I can think of trying to find something modern that sounded as that ticked the box for him. And the Thorpe camouflage was the one that did it. Is that right?
Yep, totally.
Yeah,
nailed it.
Cool. David Burke. Hi David, he says, howdy guys, no questions, just to say that this doesn't happen weekly at 5 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. It happens at 5 p.m. Greenwich Happiness and Inspiration Time. Thanks David.
You, buddy.
He says,
Thank you, mate.
on a sad note, it was my birthday on Saturday and I had no guitar gift.
No, the shall not stand. Heaven forfend.
Yeah, well, happy birthday David.
Yes, mate. Happy birthday.
Yeah, there's another year down. David Downs says, it's going to be a good week, guys. I made a deposit on an i35 LC Tobacco Burst plain top with a Bigsby.
Stop.
Now the 18-month wait. Wow.
Well done. Well done.
What a great guitar. I have to say...
Absolutely spectacular guitar.
Two things this week. One is they announced the new i35 vintage and I was like, oh my god, no. This is Collings guitars for anyone who doesn't know. Secondly, if you didn't see me video this week, I put some nice Lola pickups in this here Epiphone Casino. And it's really transformed it.
Yeah, Mick. It was really great. I take my hat off to you.
Oh, thanks, man. It was good fun, that one. Apart from the obvious. Apart from the actual hassle of doing it, the guitar is absolutely and totally transformed in my opinion, a completely brilliant way. However, all it's done is made me go,
I need a 330.
Yeah, what I need now is a Gibson 330 or a Collings i30.
Do you remember that the blue one that we played at ATB?
Yeah.
That's one of the best guitars I've ever played. That was unbelievable.
That was a Casino, wasn't it?
A Casino, yeah. Unreal.
Yeah, just wonderful things. That hollow body thing is really... Yeah, I'm really fizzy for it at the moment.
Yeah.
So, yes, well done, David, and good luck on your lovely new guitar. It's interesting, isn't it? You know, Collings guitars are, like, cough how much eye-blinkingly expensive. And yet there's a blinking great waiting list for them. That says something, doesn't it? We may have to... Yeah, okay. Let's say no more super chats, please, because we've got a tremendous number to get through. So thank you for everyone who's super chatted. We will get through all the ones that have been given. We will do them, but please no more super chats from this point forward. Cool. Aaron Martin says, literally just got shipping confirmation for my TPS zip hoodie.
Nice.
Here's my contribution. Great. Here's my contribution to the It's Interesting Tricky T-shirt fund.
Nice.
Do you remember one of the first teas we ever did said interesting on it?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
That was when we dug the old Pete Lewis video out where you got your telly. Wearing it that day.
It was all everything was all interesting.
Christian Muller says, hello from Denmark. I want a fuzz that can do beefy power chords, but also nasty gated stuff. What are your thoughts and suggestions? I already have a Russian muff in a fuzz factory. I'm considering buying the JHS cheese ball.
Ah, man. The cheese ball is really great. What I would say, make sure you check out the Thorpe, not the bunker, the Thorpe Field Marshal. That is one of, if not my favorite, for getting those really nasty, biased, like, you know, destroying itself fuzz tones to the big, sumptuous, muffy things. It's so Dan Coggins, who designed the love tone pedals. So he designed this, you know, to get that circuit in a smaller enclosure with a few things in there that the original didn't have. It's incredible. So that would be mine. The Thorpe Field Marshal.
Thorpe Field Marshal, yeah. Look for any fuzz, any vintage style fuzz that's got a bias control on it, and you can usually get that bias to the point where it starts gating really nicely. The problem you've got, of course, is if you're playing a big power chord, that's going to make the fuzz gate more than if you're playing a lead line. So the gate is tough to set because when you're playing a power chord, that's giving the thing the most signal, which is going to make the gate happen sooner. So it is a bit of a tough one, that. What you probably want to avoid is anything that's too bassy, because if you're playing the big bass chords, the big power chords, something like a fuzz face, for example, it's just going to crap out too much in the bottom end and be too woolly. That said, if you get the Eric Johnson fuzz face, it is naturally pretty gaty. So have a look at Reeves Electro. A guy called Marcus Reeves in the UK makes the most beautifully hand-wired fuzzes. I don't know if Marcus has got something that would suit your needs. Oh, he's got loads of stuff coming out. Got new pedals. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So Marcus is back ordered, and he's announcing release dates for his for some of his pedals. Deservedly back ordered.
Have you seen he's put a Black Hat sound in a in like an original enclosure, original like power boost thing enclosure.
Wicked.
Looks just amazing.
Very cool. So yeah, look for anything that's got a bias control on it, and you'll get some nice gaty sounds. Look at who are some of the sort of more contemporary builders who do those things very well. What about our friends at Earthquaker, for example? They must do that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Earthquaker, Old Blood Noise Endeavours. Who are the other people I'm thinking of, Dan?
Death by Audio.
Death by Audio. Death by Audio. Couldn't name you the pedal you need, but check those people out. Jupiter
They are
Effects.
unreal.
Jupiter.
Yeah.
They do that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lone Wolf. Does he do that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Love his Instagram posts.
Who else is there? Friedrich.
Ah, yes.
Friedrich's got some really good ones.
Frederick.
Is it Frederick? I thought it was, Frederick.
Although, to be honest, I'm surprised you can't get it out of the Fuzz Factory.
Yeah, but the first thing I was going to say was Fuzz Factory, because it's all in there.
He's already got one.
I think that the thing with the Fuzz Factory, if you imagine you've got a fuzz face and every resistor is put on a pot, basically what a Fuzz Factory is, it's still difficult to control the amount of bottom end
Right.
that thing's got.
Okay. Well, Good luck, Christian. Right, Dan. We're into
Let's
top
power
gear.
through, Nick.
Let's get into top.
Through.
Let's get into top gear. Jeremy Berg has super chatted, but there's no question. Jerem. So hopefully we'll get to you in due course. Goat Bucket. Good morning from San Diego. I love the casino vid, he says. I've got a 1990s Japanese casino and I absolutely love it. Wow.
Yeah, amazing.
I didn't even know there were any Japanese ones. I knew there were Korean ones, but nice. Captain Total Waffle. It's Philosophy time, he says. Gear can do two things, easy and awesome. DI makes life easy. Boogie makes it awesome. You need both. Too much easy and inspiration goes. Too much awesome, the sound guy goes. That's kind of interesting.
Mm.
Yeah. So yep. Sir Vando Flores says, what have been some of your favourite drives to pair up with the Victory V140? I've recently picked one up and could use some guidance. I play a Strat and an SG Junior.
Oh, very interesting. Okay. SG Junior, so you're going to have the P90 in there. I think, again, depends on... There's so many things that will work into a V140 because it's such a wonderful pedal platform, but it still has character. Yeah, so let's go. Any tube screamery things, if that's you want the mid-hump stuff. Opposite to that will be a... what about something like a Landgraf Overdrive or something like our mates from Japan, Vemuram. All that stuff is going to sound great into that. But a blues, like a blues driver,
yeah,
killer into that.
Yeah.
OCD,
yeah,
the Dane.
Yeah. Thorpe
The
Dane.
Dane will be killer into that.
So, as Dan alluded, V140, lots of headroom, lots of ability in that preamp for it to be overdriving or really clean. It is a big 6L6 clean amp, so it doesn't hurt to have some kind of mid-hump in there somewhere for which you could look at a Tube Screamer type or a Klon type. Both of those are going to work really well. But if you want to tick all the boxes of your overdrive styles, let's leave Fuzz out of it for a second. You want a mid-humped something or other, Tube Screamery. You want a boosty extra thing like a Klon type or indeed some kind of full range boost. You want a fuzzy round the edges, not too mid-pushed overdrive, such as, oh God, there are just so many. But
yeah,
what's your fuzzy round the edges, not too mid-boosted overdrive, Dan?
Blues driver.
Boss Blues Driver. Okay, mine would be the Thorpe Warthog.
Yeah.
Which can do everything from a really good mild overdrive all the way through to fuzz. Thorpe Warthog. Oh God, there's just too many overdrive pedals, and most of them are going to sound pretty good into the V140, depending on how you play and what your guitar is.
The Kingsley Page.
Yeah.
Will just sound epic in that.
If you can wait for one.
Or just push the boat all the way out and grab an automaton preamp.
Yeah, actually.
There you go.
Yeah.
If you're in any confusion, get the automaton preamp. Job done.
That's going to sound crazy. It's 800. Where are you? You are in you're in the US, so it's a little bit more palatable in the US. I still think it's like $800. But all I'm going to say about that is 2.5 boutique overdrives. And there's 50 overdrive sounds in that thing, and then some.
Yeah.
There you go. Chase Bliss Automaton Mark II. We just recommended that, Dan.
Boom.
Mark Sieber says, you're talking more last year about Princeton's. How about a show on it when you can? Love you guys.
We keep talking about it.
We just got to look big, stump up the cash. It's always difficult with stuff like that. We both like Princeton's. We both would like one, but when you've got a bit of spare cash, you've got to go, we'll buy that. and at the moment, Princeton's not top of that list.
No.
We've been buying things like lenses and camera switchers and stuff like that. But yeah, we should acquire a Princeton at some point.
Indeed. It'd be a great one to have.
Yeah.
We did get the deluxe, the deluxe reverb recently, which is a great addition. Princeton will be a nice addition to that one.
Which, just for the record, you know, Dan and I buy gear individually, which is ours that we own, and then we also buy some stuff between us that the show owns. The stuff that we buy ourselves individually is easy because that's our own money. The stuff that we buy together is the show's money, so we need to be really careful about spending that. Eric Williamson says, "Hey fellas, I want to run wet dry with my Katana Mark II 100. If I ran a tube amp through an aux box, would that fix the processing offset from the Katana to sync them up? Or should I use the Tone Master Deluxe Reverb?"
I don't know. It depends on what the latency is.
Yeah. It's going to be different
if
in
the
all
latency
three.
is matched, then it will do. But I don't think there are, depending on the presets and that sort of stuff, it doesn't the latency change. I'm not exactly sure.
It must do.
Yeah. So that's, you know, it's going to be tricky.
Or if it doesn't change, it will be the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're all going to be different.
Really
probably.
hard one. It's a really tricky one.
Yeah. I would get another Katana 100 Mark II.
Yeah, totally. If you
Because
love the sound of that amp,
Yeah,
just get another one.
a lot cheaper than a Tone Master Deluxe Reverb, and a lot cheaper
They're
than an
great,
aux.
those katanas, actually.
Yeah.
They're really great.
There you go.
Awesome.
Graham Cole, I have a Fender Bluesbreaker 7-watt head with no built-in reverb or effects loop. What's the best reverb pedal option direct into the front of a driven amp?
There was a thing called a Spring Chicken a little while ago that was really good. The J Rocket Boing.
Yep.
Is really good. I would say, I mean, if you can, you know, something like the Carl Martin Headroom, a real spring into that will actually be epic. You're going to run into issue with anything that's going to be sort of emulations and that sort of stuff. It's going to be tricky, but a real spring reverb or something like the White Whale from Crazy Tube Effects, it's going to sound really, really great. But my Carl Martin Headroom.
Yeah, it's tough. Anytime you run reverb into overdrive, you'll sound like a shoegaze band is one of the issues. Right, pup date o'clock.
Pup date. Oh, we need a pup date theme tune, Nick.
Yeah, the pup date theme tune. Okay.
That you need to that you can hit a button.
Yeah.
And then the pup date theme tune comes in.
I'm going to go for a.
Very nice.
That's the theme tune for the pup date. Rosie, hey, come here, Rose. Come on, good girl. Well, I don't know if I can lift you up because you're getting pretty heavy. She's over 10 kilos now, Dan.
Wow.
Say hello to the people, Rosie. Look, say hello to the people. Say hello to the people, Rosie.
I can't see it yet because I've got severe lag.
There she is. What's going on? What's going on, Rosie?
Oh, come on, lag.
Look at the peoples. There she is. Good girl.
I'm nearly there.
There you go, Rosie. There you go, Rosie.
Oh man, she's so ace.
I just need to so the start and end of the so. There you go.
Hey, do you know what that sounds like, Mick? Do you remember those Fender wireless speakers we got?
Yeah.
When you turn it on, it does that. It plays that lick.
For those of you who don't know,
She's a beautiful dog.
she is. She's lovely. She's we've had a regression in behaviour this week, so we're working with a trainer to sort that out. She's an amazing dog, but as anyone who has a dog will know, puppy months are hard.
Indeed.
Oh, Jerem Berg. Sorry, Jerem, this was the question that we missed from you. Yeah, okay, actually, we have got a question about this week's video. He says, how important is the wiring harness when changing the pickups, and what difference will it make? So this refers to this week I did a video on this guitar, which used to have the standard fitment Chinese P90s and wiring in it, and I chose to put Lola dog ear P90s in, but in addition to that I also chose to replace all of the wiring, and quite a few questions, including from Jerem, saying why'd you bother with all the wiring, why not just use the wiring that's all in there? And actually in this case it was really significant. The pot values were the same, they were 500k pots, but this loom that I put in there has what's called 50s wiring, and it's just the tags on the pot are wired in different ways, and it makes the thing much more responsive to where you set the controls, stays a little bit cleaner when you turn them down, and you know, despite I'm sure many online guitar forums saying it doesn't make any difference at all, the quality of the pots, the caps and the wire makes a colossal difference to how the guitar sounds, which is not necessarily to say better or worse, but it is to say different. And whenever I do a pickup change in a guitar, I always change all the wiring unless I've changed all the wiring previously and I know that it's up to the kind of spec that I want. So maybe, Jerem, what you're saying is if I just changed the pickups and left the wiring in there, how different would it be? I think, tell me if you think I'm wrong on this, Dan. I would imagine with everything up to 10, it's going to sound pretty similar. Might be that there was a lot more wire in there and it was crappier wire, so there might be more capacitance. The guitar might have been a bit duller. Plus, I don't think, presumably when the pots are up to 10, the caps aren't really doing very much, and the 50s wiring isn't doing very much.
Yeah, so with everything up full, it's really interesting, you know. You think it's not doing a lot, and on paper it shouldn't be doing a lot, but if you bypass all that and go straight out the output, it's like, whoa.
Yes.
So it does do stuff.
So they do have a, you know, all that stuff in there has a natural capacitive and presumably inductive effect on what comes out the output jack. Certainly a capacitive effect anyway. And of course resistance, because these are variable resistors. And when they're up to 10, that resistance should be 0. But the other thing with pots is they're not all to the same tolerance. So it might be that the, you know, very cost-effective, mass-sourced pots that were in there may have been bang on the money, brilliant 500k. More likely, they're going to not be measuring 500k, and quite often they measure significantly less than that.
Yeah. Another important thing to mention is the pickup covers as well.
Yes.
Because that's also going to have an impact.
Yeah, it said that the plastic ones sound brighter than the metal ones.
Yeah.
But how important is...
I think I love the look of it now, Mick.
Yeah, it looks better. It looks more like a Gibson 330 now. So yeah, how important is the wiring loom? In my opinion, very. A lot of people would say not at all.
Yeah, I'm in the very camp. Yes.
And as you can see, it plays so beautifully. Yeah, I'll tell you what is interesting, Dan. One thing that I didn't reveal on the video was when I got all the gubbins in there and plugged it all in, the neck pickup tone pot didn't work.
Right.
So I was like, pulled it all out, like annoyed to high heaven. It all worked out of the guitar brilliantly. Put it all back in, didn't work again. I'm like, I know what's going on here. One of the wires, because you know the braided wire is the ground.
Yeah.
Was obviously touching something.
Yeah.
So I got in there with a dentist tool and moved the wire back down towards the back of the guitar. Everything's fine. So I'm fully expecting one day when we're doing a show for the tone to be on 0. But at least we know what it's going to be.
Yeah. Lovely.
Anyway, that has turned a very cheap and cheerful £270 eBay guitar into a really compelling thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well done, mate. It was such a great video.
Yeah, it was good fun doing that.
Yeah. Well, you say it, but I'm getting text saying if this harness doesn't go in, we're about to have a really expensive fire
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah, I did send Dan a text going, we might need another video this week, mate. I think this guitar's going to end up as matchsticks.
It's hard. That stuff is hard to do, mate. I take my hat off to you.
Thanks, mate. It's even harder when you're trying to video it.
Yeah, oh, man. Totally.
Anyway, it was all right. It worked out okay. So, like an idiot, I was so emboldened by the experience, I went onto the TV Jones website and bought 2 T-Almond pickups. So Dynasonic single coil style Gretsch, well, D-Almond pickups.
Oh, lovely.
Made by TV Jones for my 5422 TG, which is the also relatively cost effective double cut Gretsch. So, sucker for punishment, Dan.
Yeah. I need to get the Fender full frequency ones up to Carl. I've still not heard back from my Reverb guy, so I'm going to have to get the new replicas.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun.
Nice. Matt Lloyd, great to hear from you, Matt. Matt says, hi guys, I decided to buy a couple of Gibson 57 PAF humbuckers to rewire my Supro dual tone, which is a solid mahogany with SG50s wiring. I'm thinking of using a .033 on the neck and a .022 on the bridge. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I don't even know what the standard is in those.
2.2.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you for anyone who doesn't know, the higher the value of the capacitor, the more of the frequency spectrum it will roll off. So, for example, in a vintage Fender Strat, you've got a 0.1. Is it microfarad or picofarad?
Microfarad.
0.1 microfarad capacitor. And what that does is when you turn the volume down, it'll take that much. Well, it'll do most obviously at the top, but it will also leak down into the sort of upper mid-range, and it'll sound pretty muddy very quickly. The smaller you make that capacitor, the more it moves that point up. So if you've got, in your case, Matt, a .022, that will get rid of less mid and upper mid frequencies than a .033. So the .033 will go off darker, correct?
Exactly right.
Thanks, Dan.
You think of the capacitor as like it's a filter that, depending on the larger the value of the capacitor, the more frequencies it lets through. So if you have that connected to ground, the more of those frequencies is dumping to ground, so it becomes darker. And that's what's happening when you have the capacitor hooked up to the potentiometer, the pot. As you wind that in, your more of that signal is being dumped to ground, so less of that top end is passing through.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I'd never considered it that way around, but of course that's what's happening. Yeah, fascinating. So, Matt, I'm not sure how much difference you'll notice between the 033 and the 022. You'll notice a massive.
It'll be subtle.
Yeah, you'll notice a massive difference between an 022 and a .1.
.1, yeah.
Or, and then Strats they went from .1 to .047, and then a lot of people still use .047, but quite a lot of people use 022 as well. So, I wouldn't sweat that too much. If you want to hear a .022 cap on a P90, listen to that vlog that I did this week, and you'll hear it goes off totally dead and dark. So it will definitely roll off enough top end if that's what you what you want.
Yep.
Jake Ditmore. Hello, Jake. He says, "What up, guys? Wondering if my favourite Sunface Minstrel, Kingsley Minstrel, and a MIDI EQ like the Boss EQ200 can cover the same ground." What same ground?
Well, the tricky thing with the sun face is if you're hoping to use those in conjunction with the sun face, you've got to be careful of impedances. The first thing you'll notice is, you have the sun face plugged into the amp. It's going to sound epic. Kick on anything before or after it, and that sound will fundamentally changes because of the impedance relationship. So you've got to be really careful with that. Finding fuzzes that work in more complex systems is a really tricky thing. Or you like the sound of a fuzz with a buffer. It could be that your thing. Certainly not unheard of. But it's tricky. It is a tricky thing.
Yeah, that is tough. But certainly, on the face of it, a sun face, Kingsley Minstrel, and an EQ, you've got a considerable amount of shaping possibility there.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to get a tube screamery type sound, for example, then you maybe would... Well, it's tough because you have to make a choice about whether you put the EQ pre or post. Because if you want to shape the whole sound to kind of get into the EQ ballpark of, let's say, a tube screamer, then you can do that post for sure. But actually what's happening in a tube screamer is some of that EQ is happening, the relationship it has with the actual drive is different. Because in a tube screamer, for example, some of the lower frequencies aren't overdriven as much as the higher frequencies. It's not a parallel thing. It's just the way that it's the way that it works. So in that sense, you might want the EQ before the tube screamer. So you can definitely use an EQ in conjunction with another overdrive to sound like a bunch of different overdrives, but whether it's pre or post makes a big difference. One main reason why in the Chase Bliss Automaton, for example, you've got that switch, which enables you to have it pre or post.
Yep. Very cool.
Wes Chilton, hi Wes, he says, happy day guys. Well, happy day to you, Wes. I just finished building a Birch amp cabinet to stack my AC15 Deluxe Reverb, JCM 800 and UA aux. I settled on a KHE 4x4 amp switcher. So awesome, no more fussing with wires. What's that, KHE, Dan? Do you know what that is?
I don't know. I'm assuming it's going to be something similar to the Ampete, and there's a couple of different ones.
KHE audio. Oh, they look cool. Amp and cabinets selectors. I hadn't heard of those. Worth checking out. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I see. Ola England is playing them on their website there.
Oh, cool.
Cool. And it's got FX loop switching as well. That's really interesting.
Nice.
Good on you, Wes.
Worth a look, yeah. Thanks, Wes.
Robin de Leon. Actually, he's Robin de Leon. He says, hi from Brooklyn, New York. I'm moving to London in June. What is the safest way to get my amps and guitars there? Boat or plane? Thanks, guys.
Plane. UPS. Yeah. Not a boat. I think that would be my recommendation. But, obviously pack everything extremely well.
Yeah.
Courier it. Should be fine.
You need to pack everything to the standard where somebody is going to take that package and throw it off the aeroplane. That's how well it needs to be packed.
Yep, totally. Totally.
And to be fair, Daniel and I have had many guitars and amplifiers shipped from the US successfully. So it's not like it can't happen. Now, I wonder, do you pack it well enough so that even if it's abused, it will survive? Or do you pack it so that it's obvious that it's a bit fragile so they take more care of it? It's a risky strategy.
It is a risky strategy, mate.
You know one thing I've never seen them throw? Golf clubs.
Really?
And I do know people who use golf club bags to ship guitars.
That's very clever. That's a funky looking golf club, though.
Risky. Well, the big carry bag that a big set of clubs would go in fits a gig bag in it.
And a sock over the headstock.
Yeah, sorry, not a gig bag, a
Yeah,
case.
brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Good luck, Robin. And welcome to London when you get
yeah,
here.
indeed.
Yeah. It's a bit crap compared to New York, but hopefully you'll enjoy it anyway.
I love London. I think it's great, but New York.
Yeah.
New York is... I love New York.
No comparison, mate, is there? Let's be
No,
honest.
it's pretty amazing.
Prog Doggy
Prog Doggy.
from Canada. Do either of you have any experience with trainer amps? They're nicely priced, but I'm worried this may be the case of you get what you pay for.
I think so. Trainers have been reissued, haven't they? I do know there's some footage, some early 60s footage of the Rolling Stones rehearsing before a gig, and they had some Trainer V40s, I think there were. And the sound is unbelievable. Just so good. So yeah, I really like the original Trainer amps. I thought they were wonderful. I haven't played an reissue.
Yeah, I'm just looking at their current website. Made in Canada, apparently.
Okay.
That was going to be my question. Was where are they made? Because if they're made in Far East, for example, you know, like wherever, pick your amp manufacturer, most modern amps are made, they'll be really good. They'll be consistently reasonably well constructed for modern constructed amps. Now, what does that mean? It means PCB. It means very efficient production. Sometimes you can get really crappy stuff like plastic standoffs for PC boards. You can get cheap tube sockets mounted on boards which are a bit more susceptible than ones that are nicely mounted to amp chassis, all that kind of stuff. Interesting to know what they're doing in Canada. There's no reason why Canadian or American built would be any better than Chinese built, for example, presuming that they're all made in the same way, which is like modern factory made amps. So there's no reason to think they'd be any better or worse than any other modern amp that's reasonably priced.
Depends on how they're doing it.
Yeah.
I'd really like to check them out.
Yeah. I'm sure they're completely fine. Which is not. I mean, that sounds I'm not trying to be derogatory. I'm just saying, you know, most modern electronics equipment is constructed to a really high standard.
Indeed.
If you care about things like wooden, you know, ply or pine or particle board cabinets, that might be something to check out. What else would you look for? That's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good luck. David Hodges says, thank you for 2 reasons weekly to keep going. We hope you've got more reasons than us, David, is all we can say. He says, how would you pick which amp is wet and which is dry? I've got a Plexi and a Vox. Which one would be the highest headroom? Yeah,
so the Plexi is gonna have the more headroom. But again, depends on how you run them.
Yeah.
But I would say in that scenario, have the Plexi as the wet and the Vox as the dry.
I would be inclined to agree with Dan. There's no reason you have to do it that way, but start there.
Yeah.
And the great thing about wet dry is all you got to do is take the 2 cables and swap them over.
Yep, there you go.
And just see which one you prefer.
The frequency range as well on the Plexi, the Vox has got a cutoff point for the low end frequency because of the blue speakers. So you're going to have, you know, reverbs and delays and things are going to sound bigger and lusher.
Yes.
Through the Marshall.
That's a really good point. And of course the speaker cabinet choice is a massive deal as well. So
yes, totally.
Yeah, so we're saying Marshall wet, Vox dry. Yep. Brent Garner says, I'm building a couple of Parts-Casters, an S-type and a T-type. Is there really a big tone difference with maple and rosewood fretboards?
Yes, there is. It's incredible. Not just tonally, but the way the guitar plays and feels.
Yeah.
Massive.
No
Absolutely
difference.
massive.
No difference at all, Brent. Don't you know that wood makes no difference in guitars whatsoever? There are people who passionately believe that wood makes no difference in electric guitars, and I don't want to be ridiculing of those people because you believe what you believe, right? And that's what you believe. So I would never judge someone else's beliefs. It is my belief that wooden guitars does make a really massive difference. And if you've played hundreds of Strats and Teleys, you start to perceive a difference. And what people say those differences are quite interesting. It's often thought that a maple neck, let's take Strats for example, given that that's my major experience, sound brighter, twangier, more direct. First, what do any of those words mean? Secondly, it's really not the case. One thing I've noticed about an unfinished maple fingerboard, or at least an old maple neck guitar where the finish is gone, is they tend to be really fat in some of the mid-range.
Yeah,
in a way that a rosewood board guitar might not be. But there does seem to be this lower mid colour on a decent rosewood board guitar. So it's a tough one. I do actually think the finish on a finished maple fingerboard has got quite a lot to do with how the guitar sounds.
Totally.
Given that you're talking about the how the string is anchored to the fret and the neck and what it's in contact with, and a lot of the sound of the guitar is the sound of the strings vibrating near that neck. That's what I notice about maple guitars. But could I define it? Could I pick it out in a mix? Probably not.
You're pretty good at that stuff.
Maybe. I mean, used in their typical environments. So what would you say? You'd say, Knopfler or Stevie Ray or, I don't know, any of those dudes playing typical neck pickup rosewood board Strat sounds. It kind of could only be that guitar.
Yeah.
Whereas some of your more 50s type bridge pickup maple neck Strats. Now, is that more to do with the pickups? Is it more to do with some of the earlier guitars had ash bodies? Maybe. Yeah. I think they sound different.
Definitely. They definitely sound different.
Yeah. But I wouldn't choose a guitar based on that. The reason that I play rosewood fingerboards is because I can't play maple fingerboards.
You get stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Good luck. Good luck with the builds. Mr. Flurry. Hi, Mr. Flurry. Hi from Montreal, Canada.
Hello.
I'm trying to build a versatile board with 4 overdrive pedals, soft clipping TS style and a blues breaker and a hard clipping Klon style and an OCD style. What order would you stack them?
I'd go from... Put the pedal that you want to use as the boost last. So if that's the Klon, put that last. The other ones are, mix and match. A good place to start is with the boost last, and then put the highest gain setting pedal at the front, and go to the medium gain, to the lowest gain, then to boost. It's a good place to start because that's you're getting when you stack those pedals, you've got more headroom down those gain stages for them to work together.
Yeah. That's definitely how I prefer it, is stack them in order of headroom. So looking at your pedals there, the Klon is the one with the most headroom. If it's a traditional Klon style with the proper power.
Yeah. And if that's how you're using it.
Yeah. Next back from that would be the OCD. In HP mode anyway, a lot of headroom in that pedal, very clear sounding. The TS one is going to have the least amount of headroom because it's got the most compression, soft clipping and all of that. Plus it's got that very specific EQ. And the blues breaker, it might be that your blues breaker and your Klon are interchangeable, but both Dan and I think would probably start TS first, Klon last, and then switch the other two around.
Yep.
Equally, there's plenty of people that use a TS for a boost. So you'd have the output on almost 10, the tone up around 3/4, and the drive down to basically 0 or 9 o'clock. and that works as a great shaping boost as well. So depends what functions you want those pedals to do.
Yep, totally.
Good luck.
Good luck indeed.
Luca Scaboni, who was super chatting in UU currency, and I don't know whether... Oh, Uruguay, there you go. Greetings from Uruguay. He says, I've got one quick question. Which one dual overdrive pedal would you recommend to me for less than 200? Now, I guess we'll say that's $200 or pounds. God. D&M Drive is over £200. Gladio is over £200. Thorpe the Dane is over £200. They would be our first three recommendations.
Oh, man.
Is one of the Fender ones under £200 maybe? What's the Fender Overdrive?
The dual one, I don't know.
Fender do an overdrive that's a dual overdrive that's really, really good. Santa Ana.
That's great. Yeah.
Okay, Fender Santa Ana Overdrive. It's £149.
Wow, really? That's a lot of overdrive for that money.
We really like that.
Yeah, it does sound really, really good.
There you go. Awesome. Matt
Boom.
Tucker. Hi, Matt. Hi from San Diego. Hello to San Diego.
Hello.
Hello to Ron Ellis. He's in San Diego. I'm building my first board with a bunch of affordable Behringer pedals. Can Dan talk about the modular benefits of a modular power setup like the gig rig versus other isolated power supplies? He can't, basically.
Yeah, look, there's some really good... If you're building your first rig and you want a really good supply that's not going to cost you a whole heap of money, the True Tone CS12, I think, is really great. And they're not crazy expensive. I think they're made by One Spot. But that's my pick for a cheap, inexpensive power supply. They're really, really good. The gig rig stuff is different. It's modular and expandable, and it's a sort of a different thing. But if you're getting a first board together, grab one of those True Tone CS12s, and it's money well spent.
If you'll permit me, Dan, the reason the modular thing works well for me anyway is because as someone who's changing their pedal board all the time, number one, a big supply takes up a lot of room. Now, if you've got pedal train or something like that, you can stick it underneath, no sweat, not a problem. If you use the kind of stuff that Dan and I use, which is usually an enclosed board, like a Schmidt Array or something similar, that space inside the board for one huge thing is at premium. So what's quite nice about the modular power supply is you could have the main power supply outside the board and just run in. So all you've got in the board is a distributor, isolator, high current adapters, whatever it is you need. So from that respect, it can be, not always is, it can be more practical. The difference comes then when if you're an insane person like me and Dan are, and you've got 4 different versions of a pedal board that you've got on the fly, on the go all at once, it might be that one day you only want 3 pedals on there, and the next day you want 10 pedals on there. There comes a point where I've got a stack of old power bricks like this, because this one doesn't do 12 volt 500 milliamps. This one doesn't do, I don't know, whatever. This one won't do 2.5 amps total load. And there's loads of reasons why each one of those bricks doesn't suit every single board. With the modular system, yes, it's expensive. Yes, it's a pain in the butt if you're doing the big rebuild every time. But it does give you ultimate flexibility over the long term. So, you buy one generator and you buy a bunch of the other stuff. You've never got to replace that generator. It might be that you need a Time Lord or something down the line. You can build it in bits and bobs. That's why, personally, Dan doesn't want to talk about this. He makes the stuff, so he makes it for a reason. If he thought there was a better way to do it, he'd be doing it, wouldn't you?
Indeed.
So it's a bit difficult for the guy to sing from his own hymn sheet there. So I'll do it for you and say it's flexible and it'll last you a lifetime. So
that's very kind. Thank you, mate.
No worries, mate. Yeah. Good luck. Soren Ledet. Hey Soren. And how are you? He says, I got my Harmonious Monk today and I love it.
Well done, buddy.
Thank you. He says, great show, Mick. Can't wait to see you put Ron Ellis in the 335. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Which do you like better, the Timeline or the Volante?
Volante.
Yeah, me too.
The Timeline is great for flexibility and all those things, but there's just those sounds in the Volante. Can't go past them. Yeah. Gee, he's knocked that out of the park, that thing.
Yeah.
Unreal.
I like the Volante for two reasons. One is the user interface is so simple, even I can use it. Two, I don't use any other delay sounds apart from drums and tapes.
And tape, yeah.
Well, and analog delays, but I don't use any of those kind of modern delays, so Timeline completely unnecessary for me personally. But
yeah, awesome.
Isaac Morris. Oh, Jason Carter. Jason, you've super chatted, but we don't have a question, so maybe we'll get to one from you in a bit. Isaac Morris, thank you for mentioning this, Isaac. He says, love the pickup swap video. Quick tip from the Fret Files podcast. When reaming metric holes for bigger pots, run the drill in reverse and it won't chew up the wood as much. Thanks for
that's good.
Yeah, thanks, Isaac. I had a lot of really great comments on that, actually. A lot of people saying run the drill in reverse, put some masking tape over it. Lots of people like literally doing this. If you haven't watched it, watch the drill section.
It's great.
To be fair, it was edited for drama as well. But that was great, running it backwards and using the masking tape. I'll definitely be doing that on the Gretsch because I'm going to go through the whole process again on my 5422 Electromatic. Pete Melbourne. Lee Anderson says he sells some stuff for darkening fretboards. It's called Monty's Monty Presso Original Guitar Relic Wax. Oh, that's interesting. So yeah, check out Monty's Monty Presso Original Guitar Relic Wax, which apparently can be used to darken fretboards.
Cool.
Anderton sell it, so check that out. Thank you, Pete. DWC, I'm torn between the Keeley Echoes and the Strymon El Capistan. What say ye?
Oh, that is a tough one.
Child 1, Child 2. Child 1, Child 2.
Yeah. You know what? If I had to choose today, it might be different tomorrow, I'm going with the Echoes.
Me too. Because it does all the tape flanging stuff.
The modulated, the flange repeats on that thing, far out.
Yep, me too. Same reason. Inspiration
for days. That's definitely up there with, I've got a lot of really great pedals from Robert. That's up there with one of my favourite stuff from him. He's knocked that out of the park. I love it to bits. But you can't go wrong with either of those. They're really great. But the Echoes is wonderful.
John William Gould. I'm having issues with buffers and fuzz on my board. Oh, really?
Hello!
I want to use an input-output buffer, but the input is messing with my fuzz. Do I need to have the input buffer right after my guitar?
No, that won't make any difference at all.
And it's going to make it worse.
Yeah.
I'm slumping down in my stool because I've been having this problem for 10 years and I can't solve it.
Yeah. If you can put a buffer after your fuzz and you can live with that sound,
always on,
then that's the closest you're going to get.
Yeah.
But it's the that fuzz needs to see the coil basically from your guitar. That's really important.
Depends what fuzz. I mean, Dan, the context of everything that Dan and I say is with vintage fuzzes in mind. So
Yeah.
tone benders, fuzz faces, predominantly that kind of circuit. So there are some more modern fuzzes that are fixed for all of this, but you don't get that vintage fuzz sound. So like he said, if you put anything between the guitar and the fuzz, forget it. Or not forget it, but it's a different thing.
Yeah.
And then when you put something after the fuzz, it changes the output impedance relationship between the fuzz and whatever else is happening. And often things can get brighter and louder. Dan and I did a video on it a few months back, which I'm talking about this exact problem. So the solve is get the buffer somewhere down the chain, wherever it's the least hateful for you, and you can leave it on all the time. And in that respect, the Klon is a really good shout.
Yeah.
For two reasons.
Yeah, totally.
One, in a decent Klon clone, it will have an always-on non-true bypass buffer, which will do your buffer job for you.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, a Klon after a fuzz is a sound of gods.
Totally.
So there you go.
Totally. Unreal.
Try that. Stephen Hinge. We've got a super chat from you, but no question. Sorry, Stephen, if we've missed it. Michael Gilberto, or Giliberto, says, Mick, have you played around with stacking the Gladio and the Duelist? I've been working on it here. Also, the Gladio SC is worth checking out. Dan, loved your tone talk.
Ah,
nice.
Cheers, mate. That was fun.
I'm sure that would
they're
be
good guys.
I'm sure that would be totally awesome. So, for those of you who don't know, Cornerstone Gladio, broadly Dumbly style overdrive, really nice. Duelist, Kingtone Duelist, Jesse Davey, Tube Screamer and a Blues Breaker in one box. So you've got a lot of very nice flavours there. Temptation would probably be to have the Gladio after the Duelist, but yeah, I mean, that's Texture City there. You've got 1,000 shades of overdrive with those four stages.
Yeah.
Probably too much for me, if I'm honest. I think that would start to get very... But of course, I guess what it enables you to have is a Tube Screamer into the clean side of the Gladio, or channel 1 of the Gladio, or the Blues Breaker into...
Yeah.
So it just gives you a bunch of options. Really cool.
Yeah, I think it worked well. As long as you're running them, you're running them with the view to stack them, then that would be great.
Yeah, very nice. David Burke again. He says, re-vintage guitars. I love Gibson custom shop reissue Les Pauls, and was once in Chicago Music Exchange and offered the chance to try the Scarface, their original 59, but they couldn't find the cabinet key.
Oh boy.
I have to say, I think Gibson's reissue Les Pauls are pretty stellar.
Yeah.
I mean,
they are.
So let's talk sensibly for a minute. Nice vintage Strat, beaten up, original finish, whatever, rosewood board, 15 grand, let's say. There's lots of them around and you get to play a lot of them. Nice beaten up 59 Sunburst Les Paul. I mean, they're just not around.
No,
are
they're
they?
not.
I think I saw one last week for $450,000.
Oh man,
wasn't that beaten
Is that
up
a
actually?
Rockstar owned one?
Don't even know. It was just a nice Sunburst 59, $450,000. So they are a little bit harder to stumble across. I've had the great pleasure of playing quite a few in my time, but never, because it's such an expensive guitar. Someone will lend you a nice Strat for a while to play in anger or gig with or whatever, and you really get to feel it. But someone hands you a $400,000 59 Les Paul, you're like, they're not going to say, just take this out on a gig. So it's hard to make a comparison, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, very tricky.
But yeah, blimey, what great guitars. Totally agree with you on Gibson Custom Shop reissue Les Pauls.
I love my R8.
Yeah.
That was, wonderful guitar.
Yeah. David Rutledge, my Electro Harmonics Badstone phaser has become a radio antenna.
Mm-hmm.
The louder the signal, the higher the feedback control is. I'm assuming I can't fix this.
I'm sure it can be fixed. It depends what's gone wrong. You might have, I don't know, some. Depends how old it is. One thing that isn't consistent or won't last forever are the capacitors, especially the electrolytic capacitors, and they do a very important job of filtering out a lot of the noise and stuff. You might have some little 33 picofarad capacitors in there that are really good at blocking out those frequencies, the RF. They might have gone. So I'm sure it can be fixed, but there's a number of different areas in that pedal that issue could appear. So, get it to a tech, get them to have a look. It might be simple, it might not, but worth a look because those things are amazing.
Zach has done the worm, by the way.
No, really?
Yeah. I bought a worm, an Electro-Harmonix worm used on eBay, and it was hilariously noisy, like laugh out loud noisy.
Really interested to see what he's done.
Well, he said he hasn't been able to do much as it goes.
Oh, okay.
He's made it true bypass, and apparently that's made a big difference.
Okay.
And he's done a couple of other things, but he said he hasn't.
All right.
He hasn't massively improved it. So
Okay.
we'll see.
All right.
Sean Chyan or Sean Chun says, I've been watching you guys since the Auralex covered wall days on Dan's page. Much love to you both. I've got a 64 Bandmaster and an AC30 hand-wired, and I'm looking for a Marshall along the lines of a JTM 45 for wet, dry, wet. Any suggestions?
Yeah, like one of the hand-wired Plexis.
Yeah, I don't know if they did a hand-wired JTM 45. They might have done. What you might, depending on how you run the AC30 and the Bandmaster. So Bandmaster's into overdrive pretty quick, as I remember. AC30, I don't think the hand-wired is a master volume. It might be.
No, I don't think they're traditional.
So I'm assuming that's going to be fairly clean unless you've got it cranked. In any case, the AC30 and the JTM 45 are going to be broadly similar headroom-wise as you turn them up. So it depends how much you want that Marshall to break up. If you want it to break up earlier, get a 50-watt Plexi, 1959. If you want it to stay cleaner for longer, more extended bottom end, actually a nicer sound than the JTM 45 would be my recommendation, I think.
Yep. I concur.
But don't overlook the 2061X 20 watt with EL84s. You can get that going.
Oh, yeah, they're killer.
You get a bit more love going in that earlier on, and it's really nice.
Yeah, they're really, really good.
Yeah.
Really great.
Joe Strummer +1 says Paul Harlingson. Dan? Hammingson?
Give them enough rope. Man, that album. Wow.
So if you're getting annoyed at me reading out all the questions, it's because I can see them and Dan can't. That's why that is. Tone Talk was amazing, says Perilous Temple. I also needed to nerd out with friends about my BD2. Just back from Analog Man. He made it more.
Mike. All hail Mike. Gee, he's switched on. We had such a wonderful time with him when we were there, and he's such a fountain of knowledge, and it's really great. One of my greatest loves of what we do is just being able to hang out with these guys, and they all just have these. I mean, it's like talking to Dave Freeman, which we're lucky enough to be able to do, and far out, man. He's so great. It's so switched on. It's just talking about how he does his amp effect sleep mods and stuff, which is great. But Mike, he was such a revelation hanging out with him, and what he knows about fuzz. And the amp degrees he goes to getting that stuff right, unreal.
Nice
it
one.
warms my heart that there are people like Analog Man out there.
Yeah, because absolutely everything is against them, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the modern pedal market.
Yeah. It makes the world a better place.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Brian Mills reminds us, and thank you, Brian, he says, don't forget R.I.P. to Rupert Neve, who passed away this week, aged 94.
Oh, man.
One of the great innovators of sound recording. Yeah.
Indeed.
Neve is synonymous with studios and sound and preamps and sound processing and all of that stuff. And he died this week, age 94. So good on him. What a good innings.
Yeah.
And a great contribution
He made
to
his
recorded
mark.
music.
Did his thing, yep. What a legend.
Yeah. It is a little ambition of mine and Dan's to have at least 4, if not 8 channels of Neve in here one day. That would be wonderful.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, good on you, Rupert. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rupert, for everything.
Right, Paul Gale, what do you think of third power amps? And when do you think you can review their kitchen sink amp? Right, third power amps. Literally no idea.
Yeah, no, I've seen those. They look really good. Haven't tried one, but they do look good.
Oh, I see. Third power. Oh, nice. Yeah, they do look nice.
Yeah.
Wonder who's behind that then.
I don't know if Steve Richardson's on, but Steve, I think you mean... There you go.
Yeah, nice. Point-to-point hand-wired tube amps look very nice indeed. Third power would be good to hear those. Nice. I got the Replicator Junior, says Carl Longbottom. Hello, Carl. And unfortunately, the join in the tape was too loud. Also, it's a short tape length. Shame, because it sounded marvellous. So it's going back.
Yeah.
Oh, interestingly. So it's more like a...
You hear the join in the tape.
More like a cassette tape, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is definitely its own thing, the Replicator series of stuff.
It is. It's very cool, but you've got to be willing to put up with those things.
Yeah. Weight of Gold. We have a super chat, but no question. So sorry if we've missed you. Mojo. He says, I can't find a clean overdrive to push my modded 76 Fender Bassman 10.
A clean overdrive.
You know what I would get, and this is going to be controversial? A TrueFi color booster.
Yes. Because
I
was going to say, like a Benson preamp or a, but TrueFi color booster nailed it.
Because the thing about the TrueFi color booster is right. So it's a take on the old Color Sound Power Boost.
Yep. Which
was an 18 volt, absolutely unhinged pedal, given that it was so crazy loud.
Unbelievable.
And did everything from like clean to full on fuzz with bass and treble controls. So the downside is no master volume. TrueFi, Teddy, is it Teddy at TrueFi?
I believe so, yeah.
Makes a really fantastic modern version of it with a master volume.
He does. Wonderful. You know what? His stuff, I'm so impressed with how his stuff sounds, and he really has got so much respect for, he knows how to keep the vibe of the original thing, which is hard to do. You're trying to make a modern remake of something, and there's got to be a reason for it, just doing something, not just a smaller enclosure, but, a bit more headroom, a bit more output or whatever, but he retains that vibe of the original. So great.
Yeah, that's what I would get. That will give your 76 Bassman 10 a really good kick in the front.
Yep, very good.
Yeah. I recently got a Victory V40 thanks to your videos, and I'm in love. Thanks for helping me to understand to use the gear I have, says Dianzo97. My rig is now smaller, but I'm way happier with my tone. Cheers from Italy. Well,
fantastic.
Cheers to Italy. I think Dan and I both feel a little bit sad when we hear about Italy, because it's both one of our favourite places on earth.
Just haven't been there for so long now, and it is heartbreaking. When I have my birthday out there this year, and then just move to Italy.
The food, man, and the approach to food. Oh. Tom Sciozia. Tom, I'm sorry if we pronounced your name wrong, and thanks for all your continued comments. He says, Mick, the Hendrix fuzz face seems to have disappeared from the market, but I want a fuzz face with similar tone and clean up to yours. Any suggestions at a similar price? It is really interesting, that fuzz. That for anyone who doesn't know, this particular BC 108 traditional fuzz face, you know, hand wired like on the old board in there. It's just a very traditional fuzz face, but it's silicon BC 108 one, which was the Jimi Hendrix one. It cleans up better than any other fuzz I've ever had.
Yeah, it's amazing, that thing.
It's really nice. So what would you go for that's similar to that? Analog Man's a bit more expensive, but not massively more expensive. Not like, you know, mortgage type expensive. And you are in the US, and I think, Dan, we don't know anyone who builds a better fuzz face than Mike, do we?
No. I don't know anyone more committed to getting it right than Mike. For me, he's the guy.
But the really great thing about Mike's fuzz face is if you get one with the sundial on the front, you can change the bias of the transistors, so you can get it to spit just at that point where you want to. Even better, it's got this, is it a resistor, Dan, on the inside?
Yeah, it's just an input trimmer.
Input trimmer, which will help you find that point a little bit of clean up off the guitar really nicely, and just how much it overloads with the guitar. So that would definitely be our first recommendation, would be an Analog Man Sunface. After that, there are a lot of really, really good fuzz face types out there. Again, check out Marcus Reeves from the UK, very well priced. Check out Pedal Porn. They make a really nice fuzz face type.
They make a couple of great pedals, but the Pedal Porn fuzz is absolutely killer.
Yeah, there's loads of people out there making really nice fuzz face types.
Yeah.
The cleanup is really about a relatively low input impedance and a high output impedance, which is the opposite of what you would normally get in a pedal. So I don't know if you could put any values on that, but anyone making you know, really traditional fuzz face clones will know all about that. So
yeah.
So good luck, Tom.
Interesting.
Rolf Martin Haldorsson from Norway. I watched the Andertons Fjord Fuzz episode yesterday. I need more fuzz in my life. Any love for these Norwegian pedals? Well, you're the second person to mention them, so I think we should get some in.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be fun.
Eggy1632 says, best recommendation for high quality, inexpensive, customizable length, low profile cables. I'm using a Bossy S8 as my hub, so I've got tight spacing for inputs.
Okay.
George L, isn't it?
George L. That's exactly what I was going to say. If you don't want to spend, I mean, it's still not going to be cheap, but it's not going to cost you a whole, you know, the Evidence Audio SIS is the one we would recommend, you know, Money No Object, but the George L stuff sounds great, and put it together properly and you'll be fine. Yeah. Really good.
I mean, a more expensive way to do it is those flat jacks are now available. Soldered jacks are available in mono and stereo, but they're blooming expensive.
Yeah.
I bought a load of them, and I think ended up spending like 90 quid on jack plugs.
To probably put those things together.
Yeah, and yeah, they're hard to wire. Yeah, so yeah, we'll say George L's as option number one, but if you want the best, it's Evidence Audio SIS. Wondering if you could say more about why you prefer vintage telly pickups over something hotter like a Frailin Blue Special, says Richard V.
Okay. The wonderful thing about single coil pickups is they have this massive dynamic range. And that includes when you're not creating a lot of voltage, when you're picking very lightly. And for me, the range in the vintage ones it's just musical throughout the whole thing. Now, look, any pickup Lola makes is going to be incredible, right? It's going to sound great. It's just a difference of neither's better or worse. It's just my personal thing is that whenever I've gone for pickups that have got a higher output, I lose a bit of that top end clarity. And that's the biggest thing for me. Everything for me with my tone is all about what's happening in the top end. It's all about those transients. And when I get that right, that's when I feel connected. As soon as I start to push the output of the pickups, it's generally the first thing that goes.
There you go. I concur. I tend to like... What's really interesting about hotter and weaker pickups is that we look at DC resistance and we say because it's like 12K that it's hotter than 8K, and of course that's true. What's more interesting is if you look at the transients that Dan's talking about, and if you look at the resonant peak of that pickup and actually where it's interacting musically with the rest of your rig in terms of harmonic feedback and all that kind of stuff, I often find that the lower output, it's a horrible term, the lower DC resistance pickups made in a vintage way, using the right stuff, and from a manufacturer you trust and all of that, without getting into the voodoo of it, but just the experience over the years is, for me, it's a more musical and interactive experience, which is exactly what he just said. One of the reasons I've always disliked loud pickups is because all I'm hearing is pickup.
Yeah.
And for certain styles of music, it's absolutely the right thing. Like, I guess heavier music, and I don't want to be too generalizing about it, but there are some players who just sound better and work better on hotter pickups. But if you like vintage guitar sounds and you like everything about classic analog pedals, loud valve amps, for me and Dan, it just seems to happen better with vintage pickups.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah. And that's a purely personal experience. It's not to say it's better. And it's really important that you try all of the above. Thankfully.
And I'll just say that I started with hot pickups. My whole, I had the Screaming Demon pickups from Seymour Duncan and the Invader, and I had all these because I thought, surely if I'm sending more output from the guitar, surely that's going to be better.
Yeah.
And it was only when I went vintage and I started to bring that down that the sound of the guitar that started to, just seemed to breathe more, and it gave me that clarity that I was after.
And bear in mind that Dan and I are pedal users, right? So you've got a bunch of gain stages happening there.
Yeah. So
you want to keep everything controllable. It might be something like your Fraylin Blue Special straight into a nice crank Fender amp is a fantastic thing. It might give you that extra bit of ice or whatever it is you need just to kind of, to get to where you want to be. So
totally, nothing works in isolation. It's all, it's all part of it. Pickups are a really big part of it, actually.
Weight of Gold says, have a solid brew. Greetings from RI USA. I don't know where RI is. RI state, American state. Can't think of any that begin with R. Anyway, home of the Newport Jazz Festival. What's the best way to live stream St. Patrick's music for our band Weight of Gold? The simple, best sound quality and cheap. What's the best way to live stream?
You can have two of three. You can have... What's it?
Oh, yeah.
Cheap. You can have simple, or you can have easy. Pick two of those, but you can't have all three.
Yeah, the creative triangle, for those of you who aren't aware. Cheap, fast and good. You can have any two.
There you go.
You can literally have any two.
Yeah.
But you may not have all three. And I think when you're talking about cheap, simple, best sound quality and cheap, I don't know. We don't really know about anything about live streaming. We use YouTube, and we use a Blackmagic ATM Mini Pro. That's how we live stream. We don't know any more about it than that, unfortunately. Hi chaps, I just accidentally bought a 1959 Magnatone 280. High fidelity.
Oh, you accidentally.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. My credit card seems to have fallen out of my pocket. Oh, it slipped through the machine. Oh, heavens.
It's amazing, says Joe Charlesworth, but it's 110 volts. I need a recommendation for a step-down transformer.
Oh, okay. Well, because you're really not drawing that much current, you don't have to get a massive one. So, I mean, I used to use ones from Maplin's and they were absolutely fine. If you, yeah.
Yeah.
The quickest, I reckon you know what, I reckon you pick one up on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not drawing huge amounts of current. That's the thing.
Yeah, we just bought the standard Maplin one. It was completely fine, wasn't it?
Absolutely
Maplin
fine.
no longer exists, unfortunately, but RS Components. Check out
That
RS
was a sad
Components.
day.
Yeah. Love you guys, says... that was from Joe Charlesworth, by the way. Reza El Ghazi says, I love you guys, number one. Number two, I asked Pete Thorne and he gave a plug for the Shure mini pedals. But what's your Desert Island pedal train nano setup? The last and only pedals you will ever play.
Desert Island nano pedal train.
It's got to fit on a pedal nano pedal train.
Oh,
which is about that big.
Far out. Okay. Oh man.
I'm going to say Analog Man Fuzz.
Yes.
I want to say Strymon Volante, but I don't know if it will fit on there.
No, it won't fit. It won't fit.
So I'm going to say Analog Man Fuzz, Free the Tone Future Factory, Delay, Jam Pedals Harmonious Monk.
Okay. Oh, that's very good, Mick. All right, I'm going to say Analog Man Fuzz. Kingsley Page. The Little Mistress.
Mua, Elect Lady.
The Elect Lady. And the Echoes and a compressor, if I can get it on there as well.
There you go. Keeley Echoes was his delay. Dave Thompson says, custom shop telly for $4,500 seems crazy. Should I just save for a true vintage player grade one? And the new Jason Isbell signature telly is Nitro with a 7.5 inch radius neck for $1,500 as a stopgap. What are your thoughts?
Well, if it's really hard. A player's grade vintage one, what's that going to cost, Mick? 15?
Yeah, I mean, you might... So what they're advertised for in stores and what people end up paying for them are two very different things.
Yeah.
Not to mention that you might be able to buy one privately somewhere, but if you can find a really nice one for less than $10,000, you're doing very well.
Yeah. Yeah. 10.
65 or before.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, there's nothing wrong with post-65 tellies, but pre-CBS is what we're talking about.
Yeah, and they're not all awesome.
No.
So you got to find one that is really good. Man, that's a big call.
Jason Isbell signature telly. I tell you a guitar I saw, Dan, just out of interest. So Project Music in Exeter in the UK have got a Sonic Blue Sparkle.
No way.
Custom shop with a roasted neck. It looks absolutely spectacular.
Wow. I do love their finishes.
I've never seen Sonic Blue Sparkle before.
No.
So if I wasn't in the throes of trying to acquire an old one, I would probably get that. Right, Jason Isbell signature telly. That looks cool. Chocolate Burst, Rosewood Fingerboard. Is it a double bound one? Can't really see from the picture. Is it like a custom? Oh yeah. So it's like a teley custom. I'm guessing Mexico road worn. I'm guessing because of the price. That looks like a killer guitar.
It looks nice.
That looks really cool. Yes, get that. We love Jason Isbell.
Yeah, get that, and save the rest of your pennies for.
Get that. The only thing to watch is if it's
lovely.
like crazy heavy. But yeah, what a cool guitar. Hey guys, Dan mentioned a few times how good the hotcake sounds with an AC30. Patrick Ow, this is from. Are there other pedal or amp comparisons pairings out there which stand out? So given that we're running out of time, Dan, we can pick one each. You've said AC30 and hotcake.
Yeah.
I want another pairing from you, which is classic.
Power booster and high watt.
Power booster and a high watt, I'll give you two. Fuzz face and a Marshall Plexi, tube screamer and a Fender blackface amp.
Perfect.
Those are the sounds that rock and roll are built on.
Yep.
Phil Mingin, hey Phil, he says, guys, I put a Celestion G12 H65 in my 64 hand-wired deluxe. That's the Robin Ford speaker, if I'm not mistaken. I've been offered a Marshall Origin 50 head for a fantastic price. I can run the head into the deluxe speaker, right? Yes, you can.
Yeah. Be interesting to hear the sound of that in that cab, though.
Yep.
But you can do it.
Yeah, you can do it. Obviously, the classic Marshall sound is with a closed back cabinet, but it'll work fine. Just make sure you select the correct impedance output on the back of the Origin 50. Hi guys, no question today, says Marco Barozzi. I just wanted to share I got accepted to a sound engineering school in London, so I'm moving over there in July. Happy as a bird. Oh man, that's good. Congratulations.
Well done, mate. You'll have a blast.
We're going to ask you to, if you could join that particular group of sound engineers who love loud guitars and stand up for them with all your worth.
Yes.
You can come and do our gigs for us, Marco. How about that?
We'll get T-shirts made for engineers who love loud guitars. You can wear with pride.
Oh my God, Dan! It's we've still got some to go. Sorry, we've been going for way over time today. Please, no more super chats. Obviously, there haven't been some coming for a while, but Harold Reed. Hi, Harold. He's in the USA, and he says, a huge shout out to Free the Tone. The recent firmware update of their Ambispace reverb is a game changer.
Oh, cool.
By the way, I'm patiently waiting on a 73 SG special with mini humbuckers, I guess, to arrive this week. How cool.
Very nice.
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 I've never tried their reverb, actually.
No, I have to give it a go.
I mean, if it's anything as good as their delays, then it's going to be pretty spectacular. Chris Parsons. Hi guys, I'm finally building a second board. I bought a Boss MS3 for the do-it-all gigs and can have my board to be my own. Looking at new drives to help find my sound. Thoughts on where to go from Rat and TS style pedals. Cheers from Chicago. Okay, so Chris has also already got a Rat and a Tube Screamer type. What should he add to that mix for a bit more inspiration and some different sounds?
It depends on how he's using the Rat. But if the Rat, I'm assuming, is the higher gain stuff, and you've got a Tube Screamer, so something like a Blues Breaker style thing, give you some really lovely low gain, crunchy type thing.
Yeah, so definitely a Blues Breaker type. I'd go with a Klon type. A lot of people think Klons and Tube Screamers are similar. They're really not. So I would go with that. And a Fuzz.
And a Fuzz.
Step into the wonderful world of Fuzz and come in here. The water's lovely. What do you think of the American Professional Strats, says Eric's Electric Empire. I think it's odd that Fender uses those modern bridges on a classic guitar. Yeah, Eric, it's a bone of great contention. People who really like the two-point bridges really like the two-point bridges. And certainly, if you haven't grown up with Strats, the 6-screw bridge is a pain until you really understand how it works and how to set it up. So the two-point bridge makes a great deal of sense. The problem with the two-point bridge is that I believe it comes from Fender set floating, so if you break a string, you're stuffed. You can't really do any string-on-string bends. And if you do huge bends, but it's efficient, it works. If you've got a light touch, if it's in your style, they're much more efficient. And, you know, operationally anyway, far superior to the old 6 thing. But they sound different, they look different, and they require a different approach. So
Yeah.
some people love them. You know, there's plenty of people out there playing Sirs with the 2-point bridge. Sir does a 6 screw bridge as well, by the way, but loads of people playing Sirs with the 2-point bridge really successfully, having a great time of it. So please don't think that I'm being disparaging about them, other than to say I don't like them at all. But loads of people do. Renzo Calcagno, again from Uruguay, has given us some super chat but hasn't got a question. Communist dictator says, what's the best 67 Dumble Overdrive deluxe style amp I can get today that isn't a 2-rock? Are there any that do that glorious glassy mid push?
Interesting. I see BV's actually answered him and says, have a look at Amplified Nation amp demos. He says RJ1 Kilo channel has a couple of demos of that, which is great. Bluto Tone is one that I know that Larry has used in the past.
Yeah, he's saying 67 Dumble Overdrive Deluxe. I don't know whether that's something different from the Overdrive Special. I guess it must be. Yeah, you want an amp that... Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot of Dumble clones out there. Have you checked out Tone, for example?
That Fuchs make a good one, don't they?
Fuchs, yeah, Fuchs Overdrive Supreme. That's more like an Overdrive Special, though.
But surely they've got different models.
Possibly. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know more about that. Communist. Yeah, I wish I had something better to offer than...
Tone King Imperial.
Yeah. I'd almost say you could be just as well off getting a Kingsley Maiden D and a Page DS and running it into the power stage of a Hot Rod Deluxe.
Interesting.
As a interesting suggestion that wouldn't cost you that much cash compared to a boutique hand-wired amp, which you might not like. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Dan Hodges, have you played with the fuzz trim pots inside your tomato tone yet? Lowering the gate and adding level and gain has made the pedal even better for me, says Dan.
I adore the fuzz in my tomato tone. I'm not touching a thing. It is set perfect, like no.
Yeah,
but
I
it's
didn't
nice
even
to
know they were in
they're
there, Dan. So
man alive, I think the fuzz sounds just epic.
Yeah, I didn't even know they were in there. So no, I haven't tried. And like Dan, I'm a bit scared to, so I might put a little pen mark where they are currently.
Yeah.
Morton Peterson says, hey gents, I want to do a shout out to Jeff McCurlane. I've been following his YouTube channel for a while now. What a player and teacher he is. Yeah, Jeff's got a ton of stuff on TrueFire. A really knowledgeable guitar player. I think I've met Jeff a few times actually at NAMM and stuff. Have you met him, Dan?
No, I haven't.
Dude in the hat. Always wears a hat.
Oh, the hat guy.
Yeah. You know, hat guy.
No, I haven't met him. No. I tell you who I met I met online this week is Tim Lurch.
Right.
Do you know Tim?
I know Lurch, the name Lurch.
I just saw him doing a YouTube video and his guitar playing just blew me away. He's just beautiful jazz harmony stuff. So yeah, I connected with him this week, which was really cool. Yeah. But Jeff McCurlane, I'll check out the Hat Man.
He's got loads of stuff on TrueFire. Equipment manager. This is one of those, Dan. He says the Jesse Davey vintage fuzz will not power on from the TC G system onboard power supply.
Okay.
with
Yep.
the reverse polarity cable.
Yeah. So you just need to isolate that. Yes, the virtual battery will fix that. So what you'll need if the let's see, if the Jesse Davy, I still think it takes a standard center negative, right? The Jesse Davy isn't center positive.
Well, he's talking about the vintage Fuzz, and I don't know.
Okay. So
this one is so this is center positive. This one.
center positive. Okay, right. So if it's center positive, then you plug the virtual battery, power that from the G system, and then you plug the reverse polarity cable from the virtual battery into the reverse polarity cable, and then that goes into the fuzz.
Interestingly, he's saying it will power on if the output cable is removed.
Yeah, because you're removing the earth.
Right. So it's an earth problem. Interesting.
Yeah, you're shorting out because you've got a PMP transistor in there, and it sees that earth and boom.
Thanks for your show. Hope you're all good, says Twisty571. We are. Thank you, Twisty571. We hope you're doing okay.
Thank you, buddy.
And Derek Wyman says, any opinion on the Marshall Origin 20 head versus the Origin 50 in 20 watt mode? I'm running into a 212.
We need to get some Origins to have a play. I've always found that I've preferred half power in the high watts because I like the bigger transformers.
Yeah.
But if the Origin 20 is anything like the Marshall 18 watt, 20 watt amps, then those things cranked are heavenly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. But I've always been a fan of, like, in my matchless, quite often I run at half power mode, and it sounds very different than the Lightning, which is a 15 watt, like a 15 watt DC thing. The EF86 side, I love the bigger headroom in the transformer. That just sounds great.
So I'm going to assume that the 50 is a twin EL34 amp and the 20 is an EL84 amp. That's an assumption.
There you go.
So that you'll notice the difference in the sort of response of those power tube types. If you want a bigger, fuller frequency, more headroom type sound, go for the 50 in 20 watt mode. If you want to push that amp and get a bit more histrionics from the power amp valves, especially if it is EL84s, and my apologies if it's not, go for the 20. So if you want the pushed amp sound, go for the 20. If you want a sort of bigger sound, go for the 50. And they will sound different. Absolutely, They will sound different.
Totally.
How are we doing, Dan? Sorry we're rushing these, but we're an hour over time tonight. As we keep saying every week, we really do need to change this.
Dennis Klashnikov says, thanks for your show. Do you have any recommendations about any boutique amps in Plexi territory? Yes.
Metropolis.
Our dear friend Owen Barry in the US has been using these amps a lot and sent out their boost pedal, and the amps are called
Metropolis.
And I think they sound absolutely superb.
Yeah, that or the thing that Joe Bonamassa used to play. Category 5, if they still exist.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Category 5 and Metropolis. Try those. But to be honest, everyone in the boutique amp world makes a really nice Plexi, or at least, no, that's not true. Lots of people make really nice Plexi type amps. Check out Dr. Z for really, really good prices and amazing amps.
Yeah.
Given that you are in the USA. All right, Dan, that's us. We're an hour over time. Good golly,
John
what
Fulling,
a mess.
thank you very much, mate. There's no question there, but thank you, John. Appreciate that. Thanks to everyone for joining us. That was epic. Oh, one God 777. I'm assuming you mean Steve Vai, and thank you for that as well, mate. But yeah, no question there. Thank you, everyone. Wow, 3 hours. Epic. Epic. Just so that you're aware, you said no more super chats an hour and a half ago.
Okay, so we need to do something different then, don't we?
No, it's good. It's all good.
Well, I don't
Good.
mind being here. I just feel sorry for everyone out there watching, having to wait 2 hours to get their question answered.
Oh, that's funny. Brilliant.
Yeah. You know what we need to do is
Guys,
change
be
it to
good.
Friday night so we can drink.
Can we do that, please?
Yeah. In the meantime, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Dan's got a fantastic vlog coming this week, which talks about phrasing and David Gilmour.
Indeed. Fingers crossed it gets done.
It's a bit
All
of a
right.
it's a bit of a departure for us, and we hope you find it interesting.
Yeah. I'm having a go. It's a bit of fun, and I just thought we'll have a go.
Cool.
There we
All right.
go.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
See you soon.
Bye.